back.
We're back.
We're back in the podcast again.
I have a nice tall glass of whiskey in front of me.
That sentence left us in suspense. Like, where's it going?
Wait, what is
What could
what
it
is
be?
tall? Aren't you supposed to have like half a cup? Like, isn't that what you're supposed to normally do for whiskey?
I was gonna say it's probably just literally
Yeah, but
tall, right?
No, it's a whiskey glass, but it's like half full, so it's tall because you don't. That's too much.
Oh, okay. That's why
Oh,
when you
the
said
glass
tall, I'm
is
thinking
too
of like
tall for the whiskey.
No, it's a normal. It's a normal whiskey glass. It's just it's filled more than I usually do because I just felt like it today, and just like, yeah, it's podcast time. Let's do it. I'm not drunk.
Endless plot twists. I don't know where it's going.
Oh, we have a question already with the plot twists.
No, I'm talking about your conversation.
Oh, it's not a question. I just said it.
It's fine. I said dumb
it's
bullshit. I'm tired.
It's lore. It's lore.
Tired
It's
of what?
Dialogue choices lore.
I'm just a tired person.
What a life to live. I'm so tired, just generally.
Yeah.
That's just my default state is tired.
I'm tired. So very, very tired. So tired.
Exactly.
Don't do what I did.
What a
this
stupid
week.
fucking reference. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Me?
Yeah. It's fucking Crashing the Boys from the beginning of the Scott Pilgrim movie.
Okay.
They played
Yeah.
the 2-second song. So
Yeah.
sad. And that's the whole song. Not a race, boys.
I
It
saw
doesn't
that.
sound like that's so sad. Okay.
I saw that Scott Pilgrim's getting an anime.
Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, is it going to be an anime?
Anime is a generally.
Is it? I mean, it's going to be animated.
It's going to be a Netflix animation. Yeah.
That's interesting. That could be good.
So it's going to be about as anime as like She-Ra is, which isn't anime, but that's fine. I don't care about the specifics at this point.
I mean,
whatever gets people
Does
hyped.
Scott Pilgrim count as manga to begin with?
No,
It doesn't, right? Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Why'd you introduce the word anime?
Because that's how it's being publicized as. That's what Netflix is calling it. They're calling it a
opinions
Scott
about it,
Pilgrim
don't you?
anime. No, I don't. Look, I don't care at the end of the day because I know what anime is. I don't care if people say the wrong word. It's like, people can say what you can call it whatever you want. That doesn't make it true. So I don't really care what you call it. You can call Dexter's Laboratory an anime. I don't care. I know you're lying, so that's all that matters.
You're lying.
You're secure in your weeb sexuality.
It's a weird. I think there's just such a weird contention between like anime is Japanese animation, like it's short for animation, but it's only short for animation in Japan. Americans don't call cartoons anime. Like that's not what we do. And we don't call like movies that are animated anime. We call them animations or cartoons. So like we have a word for our animations, which are cartoons. So American
this is an
or
extreme,
Western,
overwhelming lack of opinion. I'm overwhelmed by how little opinion you have. You just incredibly don't care so much.
I don't.
That's sarcasm because you're giving us a breakdown.
No.
Right after your
so at the end of the
talk.
day, so at the end of the day, Netflix is making a Scott Pilgrim anime. So I'll be curious how that goes because I don't know. I mean, because the live action movie was made before the final book came out, right?
Yeah. I think they knew because I think O'Malley was involved.
Yeah, but it didn't. Regardless, now it's gonna be. Now,
when are we getting
now
the
they're gonna make
Snot Girl anime?
Post. Yay!
The deep O'Malley lore. Have you read Snot Girl?
Probably never. No, I
Has
haven't.
anyone read
I don't
Snot
really.
Girl? Does anyone know what it is at all?
I know what it is. I know O'Malley's work. I just I don't know. I've
never seen any
hot
of
take.
this.
I don't really think O'Malley is interesting. I don't think his work is good. I don't like it. So it's just not for me. I don't.
You liked
really
Scott
care.
Pilgrim though, didn't you? Originally, the manga. You had opinions about the movie.
I liked half of it. I think it. I'm trying to think of like what point was I like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna get off the train here and then let it just ride out while I watch from afar. I would probably say I think it was like after the what's the vegan guy? Who's he? Which
well,
one
that's
number
like
he's
second storyline, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the point at which I was like, all right, this was fun, but I can kind of see the pattern here, and I don't want to be here anymore.
I think that's Clash of Demon Head, the band.
And so like from
that's
there,
when Brie
it was
Larson
like mostly
sings Black Sheep.
Yeah, from there it was a lot of just okay. I get the general tone here. I get that like from that point I was like, okay, I don't think Scott's like redeemable. I don't think he's a character that's gonna come back.
Oh no, he's not. He's pretty awful.
Like, yeah, he's pretty much gone. I don't like him, and I don't want to be around him anymore if I could avoid it. And like everyone else seemed like such a more interesting character than Scott Pilgrim, and it was like, oh, good, I gotta like be rooting for a girl to want to like put herself in a worse position in life by being around him. Yeah, and it's like I don't know. Scott Pilgrim's this weird, like I know a person who is Scott Pilgrim in real life.
Oh yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, and so like the problem is like watching it is like I don't really need to watch this. I already saw this person live. I know what the outcome is because I watched a person who's a real life Scott Pilgrim live their life. And like I don't need to be here. Yeah, like it's not even surprise. It's like I just don't have no interest. I've already seen it. Like I don't like this character, and I don't want to endure more than life has already given me.
Yeah,
like
it reminds me of people that don't want to watch Always Sunny because they're like, I can't watch shows about awful humans.
Yeah, there's like it's so Always Sunny is, I guess, like you can kind of get away with the fact that it's a comedic. It's like comedy awful.
I think that makes it worse though.
No.
I mean, they're both comedy awful. They're both people. They're both supposed to be funny shows about horrible humans.
So it's like it's fantasy. It's like fantasy comedy evil. Like Always Sunny couldn't happen. It's too cartoonishly fake. Like every situation is so over the top that like these people would have been in jail
Whereas
7
Scott
times
Pilgrim's
over.
that Agretzko shit where you're like, oh no, I know this person and I'm watching it again and I don't like it.
It sounds stupid to say because Scott Pilgrim's very like fantasy with its world. Yeah. Like it has the level up system and all the gaming
but the
stuff.
Characters are very mundane in their awfulness.
Yeah, but they're a lot more, like he said, they're a lot more real. They're like grounded, like all the characters are grounded in a sense of reality. Whereas Always Sunny are people that are just like, you took 4 Disney villains and put them in a bar. And like, that's literally what Always Sunny is, just if you wanted to summarize it quickly. It's like, they're all just cartoonishly evil people who like somehow at the end of the day aren't in prison. And that kind of, like that kind of works for me. Like that, like the anime Konosuba is the same way, where you're like, these are 4 of like impossibly evil people that could not exist. And like somehow they are just A-okay. Like, and that's the comedy. The comedy is like, oh God, how are these people gonna like basically somehow devastate their universe without being punished for it? Like, you're just watching for that. But I don't know. Yeah. So Scott Pilgrim's never been it's never been something I've been interested in. So I'm very like apathetic towards the creation of more media for it. It's like, cool, I guess people really like it or something. Good for them. They'll probably be happy about it.
Is it a very old show, Scott Pilgrim?
Not the
show.
I think the movie came out in like 2007 and the series was still concluding its 6-volume run at the time.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't around when I was a kid. It looks like something that could be.
It should have been. Oh, when you were a kid. No.
Oh, yeah.
It's not very old at all, no.
Yeah, 2004. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the publication date. 2004 to 2010.
Okay, so about 10 years. That's not bad. That's about the time I would expect something like that to get reborn again in media. Yeah. Like I
fucking adore the movie, but it is an Edgar Wright movie, which are just fantastic. It's just the way he approaches that stuff is just great. Although I'm behind. I haven't seen the new one at all. I always forget what's even called. Something at Soho.
New Edgar Wright movie?
Yeah, I've heard it's a big departure. It might be a horror movie or something.
Oh, how terrifying. Okay, Fat Cat, what are you doing?
Never remember.
Cat is murdering Andrew.
Be gone, cat.
Just like he'll climb up on the windowsill. So he's gonna do it right now because he's a jackass.
Do you
He's gonna
understand?
climb up on
Not
the
with
chair.
which you meddle.
Gonna climb up on the chair. He's too fat to do that because he only has 3 legs. So he's gonna climb on the chair, climb onto the desk, climb onto the window, and then go from the windowsill onto my desk, walk all over my keyboard and everything else, and then look at me, and then jump off and do the rotation yet again. Or he'll look at me and then walk on top of more parts, go back onto the windowsill, and then do this loop for as many times as I will allow it. And then eventually I pick him up and put him on the ground. And then he'll either go like, okay, I'm gonna go get food, or he'll come back and like sit on a chair for a couple hours and then go and do the cycle again. And that's like basically my work day, is this cat cycling through a
Just
desk.
coming for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm on a standing desk, so sometimes I'll just get fed up with it and I'll just put the desk high enough up that he can't reach it. But
He just wants to say hi, and he says hi by walking all over your things.
Mhm.
That's
No,
how
he just wants
cats
food.
do.
he wants me to acknowledge his existence, and then he wants me to reward his existence with food.
That's what hi means.
And
hi.
No,
It means give me food.
Step on me,
unfortunately, I don't
cat.
speak. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't speak cat, so that's fine. He's a lovable fat cat, and that's what any pet can hope to achieve, is lovable and plump.
That is pretty much their entire goal for survival, is just
Yeah,
don't wear out their welcome or else.
exactly.
Or else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only reason they got this far. They
Mhm.
fuck it up now, it can end just as easily.
I don't
God.
let my cat walk over my desk. I don't have the patience. I put the cat outside the door, and that's it. I'm
unfortunate
for the cat.
supposed to spray him when he does it, so he builds the habit of not doing that. But I'm really
Well, but he
lazy
also
about that.
associates the spray with you, so that's just like
Well,
swatting
that's
him.
fine. I'm okay with that. It's just the I don't know. I don't want to be spraying water around all my electronics. It's not really like ideal. But
I don't see how this can backfire.
Yeah,
Alcohol,
But,
the isopropyl alcohol is fine.
I don't think you should spray any animal with isopropyl alcohol.
I'm like, excuse me? Have you been spraying your cat with rubbing alcohol?
Yeah, I don't think you should spray your cat with nail polish remover. That's not really the ideal situation here.
This
was just
podcast
coming
is
with a
taken
with a
down from
compromise here.
YouTube for crimes.
I was just coming up with a compromise that wouldn't damage the electronics.
Don't make me
You're
have
gonna
to be the good guy
compromise
here.
their immune system.
Just no. I guess if you don't get it on their eyes, it's fine. Oh no, because the cats lick themselves. Never mind.
Yeah,
so it's a
no, that's
problem.
all.
Yeah,
That's
they
all
could-
bad. Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, he's licking himself now. What are
What
you
a
doing?
fucking
over here?
mess.
But yeah. So cats are amazing creatures who have an amazing lack of disregard for all life.
No, they
Just
have
all of it.
abundance of disregard.
Maybe one day.
A disregard of abundance. Let's just try every variation. See which one
Meanwhile,
fits.
Shadow's very polite. He will sleep under the desk. He has a little bed under there. and he
Dogs just wanna
lays
be
there
near you.
calmly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That is the
So they
perfect
settle
kind of
for-
animal. Animals that just want to be near you and enjoy your company are great. That's like
Yeah.
the best.
Like downstairs, the
Um,
computer chairs are just wrapped in dogs.
Perfect.
computer
What a-
chairs?
What a,
Wait, what?
paradise.
Yeah, because they just lean on the supports around the wheels and just sort of clog up the chairs. They just want to be there.
Yeah. That's why I gave Shadow his own little spot, so that way he doesn't do that for me.
Yeah.
Because I need to move my chair. But yeah, no, it's fun. So let's see. Okay, have either of you seen the commercial or the trailer for
no.
Uncharted?
Oh,
No,
no. I
Okay,
thought you were asking of another.
that's where
'cause
we're going today.
I went to see Spider-Man.
Spiderman, John
Spiderman
Spiderman.
recently. Yeah, I went to go see John Spiderman recently, and before it started, there was
Oh,
a
it's a
commercial for
movie.
Uncharted. Yeah,
It's a mo-
Spider-Man. Oh no, Uncharted. Yeah, so it's an Uncharted movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man. I knew.
Which is
I,
which was funny because like so I went to go see Spider-Man, which are all the Spider-Man movies about home.
What's immediately funny is I loaded up the trailer and I'm watching it on mute, and it all I can think is that it's fucking like young Indiana Jones from the fourth movie meeting up with like fucking Mark's character from Transformers 4 for some reason. Like nothing about this makes me think, oh, Uncharted, because these actors don't even remotely look like the characters they're playing.
Yeah. So for context here, Nathan Drake is being played by by obviously his body double, Tom Holland.
He's not even a body. He doesn't even look like Nathan Drake.
He doesn't
in body.
I thought he was the other dude that was playing Nathan Drake.
Yeah, apparently what's his name? Marky Mark. Fuck, what's his name?
Yeah.
He was
Matt Damon.
Not Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
That's not Matt Damon? That's a Matt Damon, yeah.
His name's Mark something, because he was Marky Mark.
Mark Wahlberg.
The Funky Butt. Mark Wahlberg.
That's not Matt Damon. They look so much like each other.
That's the joke. No, the joke is that Mark Damon Mark Wahlberg and Matt Damon look very similar to each other.
Mark Wahlberg was, I think, supposed to play Nathan Drake when he was hired for the role a decade ago, but this movie's taken so long to come out that now he looks so much not like Nathan Drake that they hired a new young hip actor who also now looks way too young to be Nathan Drake, but also doesn't resemble Nathan Drake in any real way. Like
in any way whatsoever.
They only literally went like one step better than just being like, Chris Pratt is.
Yeah.
And just hiring Chris Pratt for fucking everyone. Tom Holland's just the next young person that's like, he's a popular actor because of Spider-Man, right? Hire him for fucking everything.
Tom Holland right now is kind of like Shia LaBeouf was before Shia LaBeouf got crazy. And
which is
so
when
it's like
fun.
it's in well, I guess. But so like he's stuck in this like, oh, everybody loves him. He like, he was in a couple of movies that I guess people liked or something, and we're gonna slap him on every single thing we could possibly do until eventually he's gonna go crazy from it all, and then he'll either turn into like.
Why didn't they even at least get somebody with gray hair for Sully? Like just a basic.
I think because he was already contracted.
Point.
I think they like fucked themselves by having a contract.
They're literally
with him,
just
and they couldn't
stuck with Mark Wahlberg.
And Mark Wahlberg, God, what a name! Seems like a person who one probably would get dropped a lot if he didn't have an ironclad contract, because I can't imagine he's like a fun person in any sense of the word. And so I imagine like immediately being on set with him is probably like, shit, we made a mistake. We should probably like can him, but our contract says we can't. So we're stuck with him. So I think like he must have had a really good contract to keep him on there. And so they're just like, fine, you have to be like the second most important character in the movie, Scully. And even a Scully doesn't seem like a very good Scully.
Sully, I think. But
Sully,
the funny thing is, I think his brother probably could play a better Nathan than he could.
Probably.
Donnie Wahlberg could probably play Nathan Drake at least better than either of these characters here. Like I'm like,
that would be funny.
What are these
Wahlberg brothers?
Choices? Yeah.
What if they
look very strangely different?
What if they made the choices based on their acting chops and be like, oh no, we need to have a good actor, otherwise this game's gonna be bad.
Mark Wahlberg's never been good in a movie.
No, he hasn't.
That's what I'm saying.
And I
the
think
closest you've ever gotten was Pain and Gain, where he just played a meathead. It's like, oh, what a stretch.
And I don't think Nathan Drake is a tough character to act.
He's not.
As.
Yeah.
No.
Like it's not.
He's
it's
literally
not as
just
if you
like
need...
like Funhouse Mirror Indiana Jones.
But this does smack of.
Keith isn't wrong. You could have hired fucking Chris Pratt for the role, and he probably would have nailed it just fine. Like,
it's the only character he knows how to play.
Yeah, it's literally just Chris Pratt as a human being, just like an obnoxiously arrogant person.
Like Star-Lord is, and I from what I see, I think the Jurassic World character, but I've never watched it.
Yes,
and like,
it is.
They're all just that quippy guy that is the protagonist of every video game.
It's the kind of guy that like it's the kind of guy
non-
that like incels think that they are, but they're actually not.
I
That's,
have
like,
I have the
exactly
personality
the
of Nathan Drake. If only if I had 1 more centimeter of chin bone, I'd be irresistible.
It's like it's the kind of like
chin.
it's the kind of personality type where you think that you're really funny because you're being like a piece of shit, but you're actually just being a piece of shit. And it only works in the context of like a fictional character because you're not
nobody
the
gives
one
in-
being treated like a piece of shit from this character, so you get to like laugh with them. But when they're like around you, you're like, this isn't fun anymore. Could you stop? Like,
Being an
so
asshole is a personality, right?
sure. And so like it's funny to me. I thought it was funny because one, I'm seeing Spooderman, and Spooderman
John
is played by
Spooderman.
Tom. Spiderman is played by Tom Holland. So I'm watching a trailer for Tom Holland while I'm watching a movie with Tom Holland in it.
No, we're hitting Marvel saturation, where not only is every movie a Marvel movie, but every other movie is played by Marvel actors. And so you go to a theater for a movie, and then you see another trailer for the same actor again. You're like, Jesus fucking Christ!
In the same, so
when
like
is Matthew
in the same
McConaughey
month,
going to be in a film again?
right? Yeah, I feel like I'm crazy because all the actors I see on movies I watch, I'm like, isn't that guy like a Marvel character?
Yeah.
And so that was like I saw an ad, or I saw like not an ad. I guess it was an ad technically, but I saw a news article about how like, oh man, Disney's doing great in the box office. Like, isn't Disney the only people in the box office? Like, what kind of metric is that?
They're
they're like
trying to reach their way back to the old studio system where just one company owned the like everything from fucking farm to factory.
I imagine, but it was I just thought it was a funny article to post at all, where you're like, wow, Disney's doing great in the box office. Like, what the fuck other movies are there? Have you been to a theater? Like, it's pretty much them. Like, that's it.
Seriously, tell me where they are. I missed them.
Yeah, right. Even like what is it? And so watching this Uncharted movie, first of all, it was fun because I knew what the trailer was. I had seen the Uncharted trailer prior to that trailer happening. But I was with my girlfriend, so I was like looking at her and I was like, okay, I know when it's gonna like do the reveal about this. And so I looked at her, I was like, what movie do you think what movie do you think this is? She was like, I don't know, like Indiana Jones. Someone was like, that's Uncharted. She's like, what? It's like Uncharted. She's like, oh no. It's like it's not what people would imagine to be Uncharted.
They're pretty directly related, obviously, but it's also you see that and you're like, oh, it's gonna be young Indiana Jones because that's what they set up with the last movie, is they wanted to bring the franchise back without sad old man who doesn't want to be in anything anymore. Leave him alone.
Good for
the
him.
last Indiana Jones movie.
Like, poor guy. Stop hassling Harris. It's fine. Just let him retire and be sad old man.
Stop harassing him.
Yeah, stop harassing him.
Best jokes.
Yeah. That's what you come here for, right? You're I say watching. You're listening is nothing to watch. You're listening to this podcast.
You can watch this whole
watch?
thing. Excuse me,
Lovely
you just put all
animation.
this work into making it watchable.
I did, but that's not the point. The point, it's not really watching anything. All you're seeing is visual indication of who's talking for people who are like, all those voices sound really similar. Which one's which again? And now you know. Now you can see.
Do our voices sound similar?
People have very, very varying levels of like audio processing, it seems, because like the number of times I hear that like X or Y person sounds exactly the same is like a thing that I'll never get used to it. It's such a common comment in any group thing ever. Like, you get two people together and they both sounded identical apparently, but you get any other like list of people together too, and it's just like, hey, out of these 4 people, 2 of you sound exactly the same. And I'm like, who? Literally who? Like, does Andrew sound exactly like Brian? Like, is that the connection? Like, I literally can't really grasp at who they could mean. Like, it's so hard, but I'm like, but somehow it's like, I can't tell these people apart. I'm like, which fucking ones? You can't tell Colonel from Bird? Like, who? How?
Bird and Yuki are kind of close, but not really.
He's got that opera singer fucking bass boosted voice. He's always yelling to the back row.
Yeah, but everybody else in our group, apart from I didn't. Either way, thank you, Andrew, for putting in the work to highlight our voices and whatnot.
It's It was fun. It was really enjoyable trying to figure out the mechanics behind it.
And for context, Andrew figured out how to make something in his OBS blink on and on, like blink our things on and off when we're talking in OBS, basically.
Yep.
We're talking-
And so
Which is like a
Discord,
very
'cause
different
that's-
approach.
yeah, like they call it, what is it they call it? They call it like PNG tuber. Is what they is what the
Is it a plugin?
phrasing is for this. Yeah, so no, it's not a plugin. You have to. It's just coding. So you're using browser source, and then you just set like an HTML tag, and then there is a third party application that will give you basically you through Discord grab the ID of somebody. You grab the ID of a chat room. So like our voice channel is called Podcast. And so no one else shows up into here except for people doing the podcast. And so I just have to grab the ID for that and then the ID for each participants in the podcast from Discord, put them into a code and say like, if this ID is in this chat room, display this image when you hear audio from that profile. And
so it just changes based on that.
Yeah, so I just create two images. So the idea is you create two images, one where someone's not talking, or like the whatever when they're not talking picture, and the picture when they're talking. And so in like a VTuber sense, you would have a picture of like a character not doing anything, like standing still, and then you have a picture of them like with their mouth open, being excited or whatever, and that would be a PNG tuber. So like as you talk, they would like look like they're animated, and then go back to not looking animated. It's the same thing that you'd see in like most of those like pop-up garbage commentary channels where it's like a picture of a character and it's usually like a stolen image, like a picture stolen from some kind of other cartoon character that exists. And then they just sit there and then they change the picture to be like them waving their hands like, hey, hey, ho, ho, ha, ha. And they say like certain words. It's like that, but with less pictures in between. I technically could make it more detailed. So like if it goes beyond a certain point, like if you're yelling, then it changes the picture to something else. So like if I was yelling, it could change my eyes to be like red and glowy,
So
like a
it
mat
pays
or
attention
something.
to the volume and stuff. It's not just toggling on and off.
Yeah, so it notices. I can set it to notice that stuff, but there's not really value in that. Because so that's not done through Discord. That would be done through my OBS. So because I have you guys coming in through a separate channel from my own microphone channel, and I can tell it to monitor that channel. And if it goes beyond the peak, then I can have it do something else. I mean, it's
but it probably wouldn't work if one of us is quiet, the other one is
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't work as well in context for either of you two talking, but it would work well for me talking because I have my audio separated. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. It's pretty neat. And I wish I don't know, I wish it was a little bit more managed. I wish it was a little bit easier to export that setting out. I'm trying to figure out how I can make it exportable, because I would like to be able to take it and just like give it to Keith. So that way if like so that way if something happened, like I don't know, I walk outside tomorrow and it's finally time for a crusade knight to finally catch up to me 2,000 years late and slash my head off, then Keith has like these assets that he can use. He has like the core of it, so that way when he continues the podcast, he can keep using it and just like change my ugly face to be the crusader that killed me's ugly face when he interviews him on how he managed to finally banish a demon. And but it's OBS, well, like, because I'm using like Streamlabs OBS, and it's really weird about exporting sources or exporting what do you call it? Not sources. The thing before that.
Scenes.
Scenes. There you go. That's the word. It's weird about. Sorry, mine doesn't say scenes. It just says what I've named the scene, which is really confusing. But yeah, so I don't know how to export scenes in Streamlabs, and I might just have to redo all of this work into OBS, because I think OBS lets you export OBS scenes. So I think this is just a feature that Streamlabs has cut out because they don't need it, or probably because they put it behind a paywall or something. But yeah, so I don't know. It was a fun
There
little
does
project.
seem to be
I
their
think,
general approach. Is like, how do we monetize this open source product?
yeah, it's frustrating because there are some features about Streamlabs that I really wish OBS had. Like I love its multi-streaming. That's such a great feature. And I get that there's not a lot of people who find value in it because like if you're a Twitch partner, you're not supposed to stream to YouTube or vice versa.
Yeah.
So like
all the people
value
that
of
stream
that.
the most are specifically basically not allowed to use that feature.
Yeah, which is one, very weird, but two, like it's
It's the whole
it is what
Mixer
it is.
type situation. Just trying to build your brand at the expense of everybody else. And it's like, what, we're gonna offer better features or something, or some other way to attract them? No, we're just gonna get exclusives. Which to some extent you have to do too. Like it's like when I talked about the Epic Games stuff, when people are so mad about the exclusives and stuff, and I'm like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of other things to criticize Epic for, obviously, but like the idea that you're gonna just outcompete Steam by just having a better platform, and that'll just literally you'll just dominate the market by like just creating a better like store and launcher, and that's all it takes, and that's it. It's like, no, you literally do need exclusive games, because otherwise no one's gonna ever, like, people just don't jump ship, period. They stick to their particular platform. Like if your audience is on YouTube, your audience is on YouTube. Like if you want it, if you want to get people to watch a particular website, you need to just make the people that they watch go there. And those people will lose a huge amount of their viewership because of how unwilling people are to ever change platforms, because changing your habits is just like completely unacceptable. But but that's the best you can do to get an audience on your website at all, is to buy people over and buy out the creators and so on. Just like how like a launcher like Epic or any other launcher absolutely does need to have like exclusive games in order to have any sort of real impact at ever competing against Steam, because otherwise it's just like, oh wow, yeah, you have like a nice forum or whatever, oh yeah, good QA or whatever. Well, anyway, I have 3,000 games on Steam, so I'm like back to echoing what everyone else says about how they don't want to fill their computer with launchers. It's like that means no competition though.
That's why Epic is giving games away, because
what does that mean though? What does that mean? Like if I like let's have a campfire talk here. When you say you don't want to have a bunch of icons on your desktop or clutter up your program files when you press the start button, the thing no one ever uses, how big is Epic Games to install? Like how hefty is that launcher? No, don't look it up. Tell me how big you think Epic Games is.
Oh, 600 megabytes.
How many megabytes do you think it takes up on your hard drive to have this application installed?
Not much.
I was thinking 600 megabytes, but I actually know the number now that I looked at it.
It's 91 megabytes.
Really? What am I
91 megabytes for the launcher. It's 250 for the online services. Like if you want to do some nice dabs on people's corpses in Fortnite, you're going to need that 250 megabyte file. But the Epic Games launcher, the program that does it all, is 91 megabytes.
I mean, most of it is.
I don't think it's
cloud,
a storage space argument, to be fair.
I know it's not.
It's
that's
about like keeping track of your different libraries, and also just not bothering with more things, basically, like just having your one, like, because there is a convenience to just having one place to go to for your entire hobby, essentially. But obviously that also comes with like a massive number of problems, and it runs massively counter to the idea of ever saying that you're like in favor of competition and things like that.
It just was such a weird thing to me. It's also like people who say they don't want multiple accounts, like they don't want to have more than one account because it's hard to keep track of or something. And it's like, well, what? I don't get that. Like, one, password management software are free. Like most of them are free. If you want fancy features with them, you have to pay for it, like a VPN or some corny shit you don't need. But like storing your passwords in a thing, absolutely free, very easy to do. And you can keep track of all your accounts that way. So what does it matter at that point? 2, if you don't want to give your email out to a bunch of random web services, fine, create a free email account that just hemorrhages or just eats all of those emails for you. I don't know, it's just like, it's such a weird, I'm trying to think of like, how do you justify wanting a better platform? Like, you think Steam sucks, which it does. Steam is a shitty platform. You want to do games, and it seems to just like struggle to do most things that you want it to do. Because it can't decide if it's going to be big picture mode or if it's going to be actually used by human beings. And it's like, I don't know. Anyways, seems weird. And people have been complaining about Steam for so long, and a competition comes along, and it like, barrels through the door a little bit more abrasively than you would like, but it comes in nonetheless. And people just immediately are like, no, I'm not gonna even attempt to interact with you. How dare you? It's like, well, what so you think Steam's gonna change when it has no incentive to? Like, man, I sure need to get on changing my library, because otherwise we're still going to have the most user base of all PC platforms. Like, what the fuck? I think
it's some of it is definitely PC gamers being way less above the console wars than they like to tell themselves they are. Because the moment they have a chance for a similar platform war, it's all about brand loyalty and so on. And it's like, this developer is dead to me because they put out their game on Epic because Epic paid them a lot of money and so on. It's like, oh yeah, man, the developer you supposedly want to support and want to do well accepted a large amount of money to do a particular thing, almost like that's a necessity in this industry to survive. Like, what were you hoping for?
Know, yeah. I get, like,
y'all cheer when YouTubers get brand deals. And that's
do they
basically worse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that fucking flipped at some point. I don't know when it happened. I was always like terrified of the idea of getting sponsorships, and I still like don't like the whole thing. Still makes me uncomfortable in a lot of ways. But like, boy, has the consensus just completely changed. Like, no one gives a shit.
It's now in like the realm of like, yeah, you're getting what you deserve or whatever. Like, you should be making that money.
Yeah, you go get yours. It's like, you used to be a fucking like class trader if you turned on ads.
Which I think you are. I'm not changing my stance on that.
I lost sleep over turning on ads and getting a Patreon originally because I'm like, oh fuck, they're all gonna turn on me. Like, everyone's gonna hate me. How dare you think that you deserve any money for this?
I don't think my channel has ads. I don't think any of my YouTube videos have ads turned on.
They did.
Maybe they do. Does it still do?
I don't know if they do, but they definitely have.
Okay. I think
you literally signed us up for a contract with a trashy MCN or whatever once upon a time that like controlled our channel for like a year and did nothing for us.
That's true.
I did the same.
And you don't do that for not profit-seeking reasons.
Well, but to an extent. So there's a difference between I think there's like a level of profitability. Like I think I'm at a point now where I don't live off of YouTube income. That's not where I live off of.
The hope is dead.
See a need for it. Yeah, and I don't see a need for ads. But if you have a Patreon, which I did, like the channel did have a Patreon. When that was going on, I didn't have the ads because I didn't want the ads on the channel. Because it's weird. I don't know. I think it's weird to have a Patreon and ads. But I also,
the Patreon is not enough. Then
if it's not enough, it's not enough. That's how it is. I'm not, again,
it's like a grandstand that like Sterling can make when they're like, I make all this money on Patreon, and so no ads.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, these two numbers do not add up to like a living for most people. It's a struggle to make them total up to anything.
But and so I get that. I have my, obviously like that is what it is. I understand the necessity for it. But like, I will never cross the picket fence for accepting brands in videos that aren't built into the video, like ads that aren't Google ads. I will not stand for in a video. Don't tell me about your cool mystery box. Don't tell me about your VPNs. fucking stop doing that.
You hate those VPNs.
Let me tell you
One-
about movement watches.
dude. Well,
Oh,
let
no.
me tell you.
That's where I reveal I just fucking accepted an ad for this podcast, and I'm just gonna just do it right now.
And if that's what you need to do to survive, I am fine with that. I will begrudgingly not. I will never take part in it. I will never talk about. Like, I will never read an ad out. I hate that. I do not like. I fucking despise, especially when you pay for a service like Spotify, and halfway through a fucking podcast on it, there's an
That's
ad
really
someone's reading
bad.
off, and I'm like, I'm going to literally strangle you. Please stop this. I cannot, like, the whole reason.
What's really
that
bad
I
is a lot
pay-
of the services you can literally pay for then play ads anyway, and they're like
Yes.
they're like app ads, not the content having ads.
that too.
Mhm.
And it's just, I get it. Everyone's got to make money.
But at the same time,
somehow.
like Spoofy's not paying them the cash to not have ads.
But
Spoofy?
yeah, Spotify.
Oh,
Spotify is not paying them enough money. Absolutely not. The problem I have is that, like, well, then why the fuck do I pay for this thing? Like, it's just like, I spend a lot of money.
Because Spotify fucked up their entire brand like concept by being like now
Yes.
podcasts, because originally it was supposed to be music, and you can escape ads by paying in music, but like
Which
a
is-
bunch,
yeah,
a
that's
bunch of
like-
indie podcasters or whatever that are posting their shit on every platform and just trying to like figure things out. Spotify can't control that.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I get it. What you gotta do what you gotta do to make money. The problem I have is just I spend a lot of money avoiding ads as much as I possibly can. I don't, I pay for like Hulu or whatever. I pay for I do pay for YouTube so I can listen to it. One, because I want YouTube Music, because it's a better music app
yeah.
than Spotify. But two, because I
It's
just
the part
you know,
where YouTube fucking mutes if you lock it is such a
yes.
very intended, manually included feature that they're just to try to sell the membership. And I'm like, every time I encounter that again, I'm like, fuck, it does work this way. Why does it work this way?
Yeah.
to wrangle money out of you.
Yeah.
It is
That's just
this.
it.
It is disgusting. But so I pay YouTube Red, and also I have ad blockers on. I have like really intense ad blockers on to avoid like even just. I have it so bad that I can't load half of the news article websites without using a special like browser app. Because like
If somebody
CNN
so much
will
as even mentions a brand, their credit score drops immediately.
it's like, well, like I try if I click on CNN.com, the site won't even load for me. It straight up like gets mad at me for doing anything. And it's like, just get out. I'm crashing. And it's like, what? And it's like, because every inch
The
of
ads
their
are down
website,
to the bone.
yeah, dude, the ads seriously like
They've
so
reached
the way,
market saturation.
so I was trying to figure out like what's going on here. So so first thing you do is like disable an ad blocker. Okay, that works just fine, obviously. And then you go from like piece by piece. You go, okay, I'm going to enable the ad blocker, but I'm going to disable this element because like my ad blocker lets me like pick and choose the elements. It tells me what elements are blocking, and then I can pick and choose if I want it to be visible.
Do you use Umatrix?
No, I use ad nauseum.
that
Because
one,
ad
yeah.
nauseum clicks on the links for you, so that way it's wasted money too. So it's just it goes and clicks on every single link, just so it's wasting the money of the advertisers. Because fuck them for making ads. Like it's great. I love spite,
It's the
especially
only thing that
programmatic
fuels
spite.
you. How do I
But
automate my
the,
spite?
But yeah, like I was disabling stuff for CNN, and like there's literally one of the elements is like the core of the page. It's like the body of the entire page itself. And I can't, if I disable it, then it forces me to see the ads on the sidebar. And like there's no way I can take it away. I can't like I tried hyper focusing on the element. Like you can right click and say like this is actually its own separate element, get rid of this. And I tried that, but it doesn't, it's still like apparently if it doesn't load that video or that video can't load properly, then it just doesn't load the page. And it's like, what the fuck?
They're
How
trying
did
to
you do this?
seep it all the way
Like-
down to the marrow.
And that's
I
fine.
know, right?
Again, I just find a third party app that has ads on it that lets me read news article sites, and then I block the ads on that third-party site. Problem solved. It's just
Of course.
I just spend a lot of time trying to get rid of ads. So when I see ads pop up and like I'm watching a YouTube video, I hear like, "Hey, have you heard of NordVPN?" And I'm like, "How did I get here? I paid a lot of money." And the reason, and that nice thing about YouTube Red is that when you pay for it, your view counts more, like to a creator. They can see a little cute little thing on their thing about how much money you specifically generated for them. And so that makes me feel better about blocking ads.
You gave someone 0.0000000.
Yeah.
Not
No,
that
that's
bad.
not true.
It's-
Some channels I do watch pretty frequently, so I'm giving them at least like $1. So there's your Patreon subscription. The what's it called? But yeah, so
What
it's
an
funny.
honor.
It's great to like run into ads and be like, "Fuck, man." So I had to like I watched a couple of videos. I watched like a bunch of videos from people I like that also do ads, and I took time. I took a note of how long it takes for those ads to play, or read out. And in YouTube app, you can set so you can double tap the left or right side of a video and skip a certain amount. And YouTube lets you customize how many seconds you want to skip for that. And so
I didn't even
set
know that you
my-
could do that. You can?
yeah, you could do that. And so I set it so that I if I double tap it, it skips the whole ad for almost any channel basically.
That's really
And like
funny.
the most I
Nice.
lose out on is like a couple of sentences in the beginning, maybe, you know, like this is why, and then it just starts after that. And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I'll take the risk. Like it's
when I'm
God.
tired at the end of a long day at work, I don't want to cook. So,
Pretty much.
and that's why the
And-
Matrix is trans.
Finally, here we go. Now to the content.
Yeah.
Glad somebody did it.
Well, my favorite thing about YouTube ads is that they seem to really consistently be filmed or recorded in some kind of context where there's like a massive overlay, or they're in a different room with a new background, or something has just changed visually so much that I can just pause the video and scrabble right after the ad and then skip to there. Like I can just I can tell what part the ad is. It's like, oh, it's right. Yeah, it's there. Okay, bye.
Yeah,
And I'm gone.
I'm.
Something about
I would.
Boxo.
Or surf something.
Check out my
I've
new
never-
ball shaver. I'm like, bye. All right, here
Oh
we go.
no, those are the worst.
Adam and Eve. Just fucking.
Oh,
just
God.
the list.
Wait,
Used to listen-
there was
Remember when I
an
used to listen
Adam
to
and Eve,
podcasts, and every single podcast was sponsored by Nature Box or Casper mattresses or Movement watches?
yeah, I know
now
because
it's-
you've got a
now
nature
it's-
box.
Yeah, well, I did like it for a while. I did. Yeah,
It worked.
we talked about this before. I tried to resubscribe to them like a year or two ago, but only to find out that they literally had just stopped the entire subscription model entirely and were just selling like hemp. Like they were just selling like THC related products or something like that, and it's just like, this isn't all right. Well, not what I was hoping for.
Out.
Like they had their new trend. Subscription boxes are out. This is it.
Oh,
They
were
did.
they?
They were. Oh, what was Nature Box?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was a
explain that,
monthly
Keith.
subscription of snacks.
Mm.
But there was like the gimmick of it being like, I don't know if it was natural or healthy or both. I'm sure they were just kind of nice. They'd have like a bag of like dried fruit, and they'd have like these sesame sticks, like these baked honey sesame sticks that were just nice, and like a bunch of different variations. And you just kind of like, whenever you got stuff in your box, you would rate it, and so that would affect your future boxes. And they would like, because it was kind of supply based, where you kind of got somewhat randomized things, but you would say how much you liked different things, and that would change what you were getting each box, so that it wouldn't be as it wouldn't fuck up. And it has to figure out like whether you prefer like sweet or savory as a preference and stuff like that. And it was just like a nice little box of things to go through. It's that overpriced stuff that you get at one of those like farmers markets, basically, which is pretty much where I'd get it now. Like I know of a place where I can get baked. They got baked onion chips, and I'm like, these are fucking great. I love this idea. This is great.
It does sound good.
Because it's like it's onions, that have that are like they peel and chop the onion, and then they bake it in this way where it has like kind of the consistency and like crunch and softness of like, I don't know, like Cheetos or something. But like I don't like chips really, but like onion chips, fucking great. Onion anything honestly, but like that's like a specific thing where I'm like, this is a thing I didn't know I would like or even know to expect exist, but it's a great idea and I love it. And then like dried pineapple rings and shit like that.
Pretty much.
They're
And
fun
those are a
things to
big
have,
thing.
and they're very computer desk friendly, like stuff to have like on hand without having to like, you can keep it in your office and not leave in the pantry areas and stuff with your roommates where they can vanish.
Yeah. And these box things, these like box subscriptions were like super big in the like the mid 2000s. So like from 2010 to I would say like, I don't know,
Geek box and stuff like that.
2015. Yeah, there was like there's this huge big ordeal about like taking a bunch of shit from a bunch of shitty companies and putting it into a box and selling it to somebody.
I hated that trend. I hated it so much.
Dude, it was not great because it was starting to get to it gets so much like everything. It gets to a point where everything's a fucking subscription box. So like every single goddamn thing is like, you can get a box for this. It's a box. You like geeky stuff? Here's a box. You want food? Here's a box. Like every fucking thing was a box.
Same.
Yeah, you could get monthly deliveries of bacon boxes where it's all bacon products ranging from bacon, bacon spread, bacon cheese, bacon. Like, I'm not joking. This was a real fucking thing. There was a bacon box. Like,
no, I think both of us were simultaneously subscribed to a Japan crate recently of like snacks and things. I can get behind it when it's food, because then it goes away. I don't get I could not comprehend people who fucking subscribed to like Geekbox and things, because it's like
and shit.
It's just like, hi, are you the most boring kind of nerd on the planet? Can you be appealed to by just generalized nerd products? Here you go. This month it's Star Wars. This month is Spider-Man. This month is Walking Dead. And it's like, isn't the whole point of being a nerd to have like specialized fucking interests and not just be like, yes, I enjoy nerd products. Please deliver them to me directly into my nerd hole. I would like to have a randomized collection of somebody else's interests on my counter. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's like for a long
on my counter.
It was so bad that it gave me like a negative impression of literally just the concept of figurines. Just Nerdbox as alone made me hate figurines as a concept. And like I more recently started like caving and getting figurines for things a little bit. And I have like a handful on my shelf. And it's like, oh, these are neat. Turns out when you really care about a really specific thing, having a little figurine just in your room that you just see sometimes is like, that just kind of like is a plus in your life. Like, it's just like, you know, be like happy about things. Who the fuck wants like randomized Funko Pops from some random asshole that's like an overflow warehouse because not enough Daryl figurines were sold this month, so we put them in a box. Here you go. It's like, what the fuck? Yep. Who? Why? Why was that figurines popular?
Yeah, no, it was seriously a lot of it was
Norman
just
Reedus from Death Stranding or Norman Reedus from Walking Dead. We got both. Try to tell them apart.
It was really fun to see the kind of shit that apparently people didn't want to buy and then repackaged and sold to people as like a mystery. Ooh. You didn't know what you were getting that month, and it was junk.
And you pay a premium for not knowing what you're getting.
It's only one step removed from Japanese gachapon garbage, where it's like, hi, would you like a fucking Rathalos figurine? Too bad. You got to buy the randomized Monster Hunter box. See how many pieces of trash you can get before you get the one you want. Then throw them in the garbage. Let's just accelerate. This is apocalyptic accelerationism. Let's go.
It's great.
But the kids are into these days.
I was subscribed to like Lootbox for probably like 2 years.
I'm actively throwing shade.
Oh no, I know. I still have all the figures. They're still on the shelf.
I remember your fucking Walking Dead shit that I knew about, but you didn't. That you had in your house. Yeah. And I'm like, the fuck.
I think I even had like a T-shirt of.
Yeah, you had a Negan shirt, and I'm like, you don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
I subscribed to Curiosity Box, which was
I'm currently writing 3 essays about Walking Dead.
My
Yeah, I don't know
God.
shit about
Kill
Walking Dead.
me.
But you come back a lot again because Walking
I'd come
Dead.
back
Get it?
stronger. Because we're all
Right.
we're already the Walking Dead. We're all infected.
Finally.
For those that don't know, that's the plot of Walking Dead.
It's
Everybody,
zombies.
it's
yeah.
zombies, but also like everybody's already infected. So
Oh.
if you die, you become a zombie. Period.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Oh,
you die in
right,
real
right,
life,
I
if you
knew
die in
that
the
bit.
game, you die in real life.
No,
in
that's
Walking Dead, everyone turns into a zombie, no matter whether they were bit or not, unless you specifically destroyed the head.
Hmm.
To the point where there's even a plot
James-
point where there's a bunch of heads on spikes, and because the brains aren't destroyed, they're still like trying to zombie bite from their little
That's
posts.
cool.
Yeah, they were all major characters, so it was like, oh no.
Let me guess.
That
that's
makes it
at
even
the
cooler.
end. It's at the end of
In some
of a
ways,
season.
yeah. It's the increasing escalation of how to introduce the new big bad. Is you're like, well, this one killed a bunch of major characters and all their heads are on spikes. Fuck you. It's like, oh
The next one is going to destroy the entire world.
no, the next one's capitalism. Specifically
Okay, that's what I
neoliberalism.
said.
Specifically, the next
That's what
villain
I
is
said.
neoliberalism. I'm not even joking.
I think so.
yeah, I
do
guess that is the
people-
most apocalyptic thing in the world. It is literally
So
going
is
to
it-
kill us all.
So do people like kill themselves and then destroy a colony from the inside out?
I mean, they're not super zombies, but yes.
Well, no, but like if you die, you turn into a zombie, and if you do it in the middle of the night in a safe area where people aren't expecting a zombie to just wake up,
there's
out of
there's
a
a reoccurring plot
Like-
point related to that. Like in what is it? Back during the jail storyline, there was a part where there was a disease ripping through them, and when somebody ended up dying of it, they started just going after everybody in the sick ward. In Fear the Walking Dead, there's a part where they're trapped in an area that's running out of air, and the first people that die start turning into zombies and eating the people that are passed out that aren't dead yet. There's a recurring thing. And then what's her
Okay.
name? I don't remember her name.
Not know what her name is.
When the actress that stars in Star Trek Discovery as the lead actress of the whole show she had to leave Walking Dead to go be in Star Trek Discovery. So she was in a hostage transfer, but she literally killed herself so she couldn't be used as they were transferring her in a coffin, and she killed herself so she couldn't be used as a hostage, as a bargaining chip. And then she came out of the coffin as a zombie and started biting at people because they weren't ready for it.
That's
Which
what I'm
is a
talking about. That's what I
hell
was
of a way to
expecting. That's
go.
pretty. I love that idea. I love the Trojan horse zombification and suicide. That's great.
That's a hell of a fucking move to have.
Yeah, that's pretty top tier.
That's some Andrew level spite right there.
I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. If someone was gonna kidnap me, I'd be like, oof, good luck. Good luck with whatever comes out after when you open this door.
Yeah,
like-
over the course of 32 volumes and 11 seasons, they explore all the variations. There's a
That's
guy
good.
that's bitten by a zombie and then he feeds himself to cannibals.
Wait a second.
Wait,
What
how
the
does that
fuck?
There's an enemy group of cannibals, and he lets them cook and eat his leg and stuff. But he's already been infected by. He's like, that's right, boys, I'm spoiled meat. Walking Dead's
that's
fucking
cool.
That's
and the-
great. Well,
and
I would also probably
the comic
do
is
that.
so much better than the show. I almost said the anime. The comic's so much better than the show, but every now and then the show manages to recreate it. And every now and then they do something clever, but usually they just are recreating it but worse. Especially since they try to recreate the same storylines, but they have none of the same characters, because not only do they slightly change certain things here and there, but also early on in the show, I think the show was made by the guy that made The Wire, and so a bunch of actors from The Wire were in the show, but then they fired the guy that made The Wire, and then all the actors wanted to leave the show. So half the main actors were almost immediately had to be killed off in season 2 and 3, basically, which is Zone Train Wreck. And then there's just been a recurring thing now where the show is so old and all the actors keep changing all the time. So that actress went off to be in Star Trek. The guy that played Heath went off to be in the 24 reboot as the protagonist of that. Rick just wants to fucking
they're
go home
rebooting
and see his.
24?
No, it already got canceled, I think. Rick just wanted to go home to his family in Australia and stop starring in this show for a decade, so he left the show. Michonne's played by the actress from the Marvel movies. That's the second in command under Black Panther, and like she has like a career going places, so she wanted off the show. The actress that plays Maggie, she went off to be the lead actress in like some shitty looking crime procedural that looks just made for boomers. I Google it, I'm like, is this a parody? They still making these, huh? And so like she was gone abruptly for like a season and a half, till suddenly she came back out of nowhere, and just the story is like snapping over the knee of the reality of having to keep actors on a show for this long. It actively breaks the story all the time. It's a train wreck, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch how stupid that gets.
You say that, and you've said this before. It sounds to me like you're trying to justify it's kind of a sunk cost fallacy.
I mean, Zero Escape, right? Like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like I enjoy engaging with bad things and enjoying the bizarreness of how much of a fucking wreck it is, and just getting the story out of the whole thing. Like the sheer chronicle of reasons they've lost actors over the years, to the point where the two main actors and like the fan favorite characters that are also like the people sticking through the whole show, and also are going to be like in a spin-off eventually, are Daryl Dixon, a character they made up that didn't exist in the comics at all, and Carol, the battered housewife character that feeds herself to a zombie on purpose, and saying the line like, "Oh, so you do love me," after Rick and Lori refused to let her into like get into a polygamous relationship with her. If nobody will love me, then I'm just gonna feed myself to this zombie, and then that's how she dies. And like she's like the most beloved character in the entire show, and she isn't that person even remotely. But like that's who Carol is, if anyone didn't fucking know. Like that's so fucking weird that she's the character she is now in the show, because it like actively doesn't make sense, and it's kind of great. And like those are the main characters of the whole thing. One of my favorite developments recently is that they have to do the Commonwealth storyline, and it's really important to the story to have a character who is a lawyer. And the whole point of this part, we're just deep into spoilers at this point. It's too late to even warn people. But like at this point in the narrative, this is supposed to be the part where Michonne is tempted to return to the old life and be like, "Oh, see, isn't the old world good? Don't you want it back?" And it's like, here's this place where you can be a lawyer again instead of a zombie slayer. You can finally hang up that big katana you've been using. And oh my god, the members of your family, I think it's her children, are like, they're alive. They've been alive this whole time, and they've been living here. Don't you want to just go back to the old days? And she's supposed to be like really seductive to like want to go and give in to like how this place works, and like accept all of the faults of the old world in a desperate attempt to like recreate it. And that's supposed to be like the whole point. But Michonne left the show in like a horrible story-breaking way. Like Rick is presumed dead by everybody. The two of them had a daughter together, and the half daughter, because there's the daughter that Rick had with Lori. So Rick has two kids, but he's excused, and that he's supposedly dead, even though he's not, because he's going to be in movies and shit. And I don't know how they're going to explain that. It's going to be bad.
Yeah.
But Michonne just up and leaves. Like I think she hears vague information that somebody she cares about might be out there somewhere, and she has to go find them. And it's like, ma'am, you are a single mother who has two children that are very young in the zombie apocalypse, and you're just gonna get up and leave? It's like they had no choice. They have to figure out how to get rid of Michonne, but also like they keep hedging their bets with all their most important characters, like Maggie and Rick and Michonne, by never killing them when they leave the show. They always like, oh, they're off somewhere else now. Maybe they'll come back. And it paid off with Maggie, because she did come back, because her show got canceled. But like, it's a horrible way to set the story, because it means that you break the characters by having them, in Michonne's case especially, just willingly leave. Although Maggie's was pretty bad too. She was like, I'm pretty sure she was literally pregnant or had a toddler and just left into the apocalypse alone. And I'm like, excuse me? She did what? Well, But like Michonne just fucking takes off and she's just gone, and it's like, so like they had to do so just because she, like first of all, because Carl's dead and Rick is presumed dead, the show had to do a multi-year time skip just to age up their Judith, their daughter, just so she could be a character with agency and lines and stuff, so that they're still like as a Grimes legacy at the core of the show. Otherwise, like like the story breaks a bit. But also they what is it? They had to like suddenly like retcon like Yumiko, a random character, to be a lawyer all of a sudden. So like like it's one of the most fascinating things about the weird train wreck of Walking Dead is that you'll get to these storylines where they just recreate the old storyline, even though none of the same people are there. So like they're meeting with the Commonwealth and they're interfacing with their society in a way similar to what happened in the comics, but the entire group of people in the group are people who, like, most of them are people who just literally weren't alive at that point in the comics. They'd already died, and those that hadn't already died are replaced by like people who just like aren't acting as themselves. Like Yumiko is just suddenly a lawyer because she just has to do literally Michonne's entire storyline in her place, because that's how they adapt the thing. So it's like, and like that's not new. That has been literally every season of the entire show, is like, we're gonna try to recreate the old storyline, but not the same people didn't do the same thing. So either we're gonna break the story by having the same person do the same thing despite all the context being different now, or we're gonna just have like somebody else do it. Just be like, fuck it, like we just got to make this work at some point. Like this happened like as early as like season 3, where like they had this bizarreness where like Michonne really spitefully hunted down the governor's daughter and killed her. She was already a zombie, but like specifically like the governor was keeping her
makes it more spiteful.
Well, yeah, the governor was keeping his zombified daughter locked up in his office, like not letting go, that whole thing. And Michonne like came in and murdered her, and that sparks like a whole war. But like the whole context where Michonne is like captured and assaulted and so on is like completely cut from the storyline. So all of her motivation to be so bizarrely spiteful is gone. And in the context of the show, she just joined Rick's group and they don't trust her. So her running off to do a random spiteful act without them, leaving them the moment they enter the gates, would be incredibly suspect. Starting a war with what she does would be like grounds to immediately get rid of her. But she's like one of the main characters, so she's like in the rest of the show, and they just don't reconcile how broken the story is as a result. Like, it's so back and forth. It's so messy and weird and nuts. And I can't look away. Like, and now there's 3 shows.
But that's not what you're writing the... no, wait. You said you were writing 3 essays on the show? I know one of the themes.
It's always dangerous to say these things, obviously, because I've mentioned a bunch of other things I keep trying to write, and it's all back and forth of which things are abandoned and which things are just things I need to like finish reading something else for first. Like I'm currently reading... I'm trying to get caught up on the next 2 Witcher books before I watch season 2 of the show, because I have this thing I want to talk about with stoicism and toxic masculinity and so on, but then I can't like... Well, I think I could talk about it. I'm not comfortable putting my neck out there that much as far as like how right I am or am not, without like getting caught up on the relevant stuff that most people have seen right now. Because like I'm just from the beginning of the first like serialized story, I'm just like, oh, this is really interesting. I bet I could write about this. But it's like, but now I've got to like do my due diligence, which is the worst fucking thing. It's like how I'm getting
due diligence.
It's like I'm getting clogged up with like trying to research so many different topics related to LGBT issues and stuff like that for the Beastars thing, while also rereading the entire comic so far, while putting like highlighter like tabs and like bookmark tabs on the pages for various topics to try to like chronicle examples of things and so on. And it's just like, oh my fucking god, this is it's and it'll never be enough. I'll still fuck something up. Like, it's just a whole thing. And like I've got the Squid Game series, the Squid Game thing, and I've got other stuff going on, and it's just too many things. But but I was writing a thing about Walking Dead, and it split into the real essay about Walking Dead and one that's just called Unhinged Rambling. That's just, or Unhinged Ranting. That's just me, just all the things that I keep wanting to talk about Walking Dead, but don't actually fit the thesis of what I'm discussing at all. So it's just ranting about all the dumb bullshit, basically, because that is just cathartic in its own right. But that's like more of a weird side review rant thing, and not like the original topic, which is about how like Walking Dead hits differently in COVID years, and here's all these weird parallels between COVID and The Walking Dead, and the villains of real life versus the villains of the show, and elements like that. Which character is Biden and stuff like that. But then that started going to political things where I'm just like, oh, isn't it interesting how nobody uses money in this universe? What was that? What kind of like deeper ideologies does the show have? And it's like, okay, but that's a new topic. I can't like just transition from the COVID shit to that. And so it's like, this is a whole different thing, because like there's a whole thing about how like The Walking Dead is, I always, because my discussions of Walking Dead have evolved over the years, over many podcasts. Like I keep going on these rants about the show over the years. And one of the first things I always said was cool about the comic was that Rick wakes up in a hospital and the apocalypse already happened. And he just has to like figure out what to do and what's going on. And like there is like the usual first encounter with zombies type stuff, but he doesn't witness the actual outbreak happen, and you never do. Like you never get to see somebody else. You never, like the show doesn't like flash back to it, or the comic doesn't flash back to it. Like it's just like, no, the apocalypse already happened. Rick eventually finds like his wife and other people out in this encampment outside of the city, and then just trying to figure out what to do next. But it's been like weeks.
Isn't that like a maybe an influence from 28 Days Later, or is it 28 Days Later, or is it the other one?
I don't know if that was out yet or not. But also like 28 Days Later was this weird thing where like everybody like, you definitely see the outbreak in 28 Days Later.
Oh, do you?
Like you literally see how it happens. There was environmentalists or something were like breaking into like a monkey lab, and they get infected and so on. But yeah, that guy does wake up in a hospital. But it also happens in Resident Evil, which we were like, oh my god, did they steal this from did Walking Dead steal this from Resident Evil? Because like for as long as Walking Dead has been running, the Resident Evil movie actually happened like a year earlier, and it ends with Alice waking up in a hospital, and Raccoon City's already been ravaged by the apocalypse, and it's just empty, which is a really great ending to that movie. But specifically, it's not just that he misses the apocalypse in a similar way to like how no one really remembers exactly when COVID started. Like one of the startling.
Why do you say that?
Well, because like the moment where you specifically like, there's no 9/11 moment where like, where were you when? It's like, no, like there's a weird creeping dread in the background, and you mostly ignored it at the beginning because you didn't think it wasn't clear that it was even going to be like a wider problem, to the point where like one of the biggest things that's like farcical about its name, not farcical, but like a thing to remember all the time, to remind yourself of, is it's called COVID-19 because it's from 2019. You know, not the year people think of as the COVID year in the first place. Like, because there was that creeping thing, and then there was just suddenly like the day or the week when suddenly everyone's buying toilet paper and shit, and there's long lines at all the food places that sell canned food and things like that. And suddenly it's like this sort of like building thing, like where you're not really sure when it happened. And then there's the waves of bargaining with yourself and thinking about like how long it's going to be, or like, is this still going to be COVID on my birthday and stuff like that? And just the slow creeping realization of how long it's going to be, to the point where now when you watch Dear White People, they have flashes, they have scenes that take place in the future where everyone has like stylized masks, because it's just fully become part of culture and society. And it's just like people are becoming to terms with the idea of it being the forever disease and so on. And it's like, oh, Walking Dead, the fucking like stages of denial and acceptance and so on, of thinking like, oh, we just got to outlive this, the military is coming, or the CDC is going to have the answer, we just got to survive in this encampment. And then eventually there's the waves of like, no, we need a more permanent solution, we can hold out in this prison for way longer. And then it's like, no, we got like, then you get to the Alexandria arc where it's like, no, we need like walled housing areas and like farms and future planning, and like this is the long haul, to the point where at the end of Walking Dead they have a flash forward 25 years into the future into 2033, where like it's generations are passing. Like the zombies are still around. Like it's not gone. It's different. It's manageable. It's society was fundamentally reorganized by this event and so on. It's like there's things to go on there.
Is it like a thing in the air? Is the disease is the zombie disease something that's in the so like everybody now from whatever point on, everyone now on the planet will always turn into a zombie when they die.
Yeah. In fact, that's the
so even like new generations.
That's the most brutal thing about the entire like development. There is the if it's just zombies and they just infect you by biting you, it's like beatable. There's like an end goal that you can achieve.
Yeah, you can.
But in this setting, you see the kind of I hated Walking Dead World Beyond. I only made it like halfway through one episode, and I might force myself to get through it, but I'm like, this is so fucking boring. These fucking teenage girls are just so underdeveloped and they're not interesting. And they're the protagonists of the show. Oh God. Oh no. Child actor stuff. You're like, oh no. It's like, this isn't sex education. That means it's bad. That show's really good.
Wait, what?
Sex Education is just a really good show.
Okay.
But a really interesting detail is that it takes place in the Commonwealth, which is the neoliberal nightmare place that's from the end of the main story, but it's from the perspective of the inside of that society. And there's like really interesting details, like how like their apartments have specialized doors that are specifically meant to contain zombies inside the apartment. So if people die unexpectedly, which happens all the time in a society, like it's a basic realistic thing you'd have to grapple with, is you'd have to create specialized anti-zombie doors so that people can like visit people's houses and check in on people and so on without being like killed in the
Suddenly
process
zombie.
and spreading virus. And then things go badly. It's like, oh right, you wouldn't just let that surprise keep happening. You would literally like reorganize your society around the problem. And like those details are super fucking interesting about that setting.
Yeah. That's really cool world building.
Also, social distancing is just built right in. You gotta be out of arm's reach.
Yeah, that sort of those sort of challenges to making a world is definitely for me the coolest thing about thinking up new worlds. The nitty gritty of building up building a story around that is really difficult. But
how do people
obviously that's
things?
What makes. Sorry,
by dying.
Oh no.
How do people do things, or why do people do things?
Well, it's the question of how do people do things in the setting.
Oh, right.
That's the world building.
Yeah.
That's the logistics that goes into every element of how you build the world and a story and things.
I guess I'm just thinking of like how that's always much like how the stupid plot in Death Stranding is like, you know, when people die they turn into nukes or whatever.
They do nothing with that though. that Stranding doesn't do anything.
I mean,
Death Stranding does that in that you can't kill people.
Yeah, it just does.
As somebody who tried to do 100% complete the entire game and got every achievement and everything, eventually you're like, we gotta deal with these fucking mules, and you're like, oh shit, I shot everyone with bullets. They're not tranquilized. I just killed like 10 people. I need to load all these bodies into a fucking truck. Like, you can't just leave. You're like, oh fuck, the skulls everywhere. That's bad. This place is gonna explode. Like, there's gonna be a massive void out crater in the middle of an important. I'm so fucked. I need to haul them all to an incinerator.
That's why I thought it wasn't gonna do anything with it, or we didn't do anything with it because, well, you took care of that. I think you got a few craters every once in a while.
No, I never got a single crater in the entire game because I also never died. But no, that happened off camera after the series was over. There's nothing to remember. That was just when I was completing the game after I beat it, just for in my free time, which I also did with Ghost of Tsushima.
But
that's just
that kind
open
of
worlds.
that kind of premise, the idea that you can or that like death is what you call it, death has a result that is like immensely impactful to society, is like, I feel like those situations kind of are dead ends. You can't create a society with those kind of requirements, because like Death
It's
Stranding
tough.
takes
It's
it
why
too
everyone's
much of
spread out into a separate bunker, and they Amazon delivery everything in their life.
Well, yeah. But I'm saying like Death Stranding takes us to like an extreme that they're like, you basically have to combine Orwellian society with like, I don't like doomer mentality. Like everyone just has to be like hiding in bunkers, but the government's like watching you very closely because you're a nuke. Like it's really weird. But you think about it, like even if so, again, we move on as a society. We do it, like we start to finally branch out or whatever. You can never do that again. Like you can never have a normal society because you are a fucking bomb. If you like, I don't know, you pee on someone's foot and they turn around and stab you in the throat, like you better make incinerators like around every block, because like what you gonna need to like hoof that body before it just turns your entire town into nothing. Walking Dead obviously isn't as cataclysmic about it because you just turn into a zombie, which is
but I also give Death Stranding a pass because it's an intensely metaphorical setting.
Well, again, it's cartoonish. That's what I'm saying.
It's very non-literal in its premise.
Yeah, you can't like look at Death Stranding as an example because it's too outrageous. But the like seriously, it is ridiculous that the United States even exists in that game. Yeah, like the idea that like 350 million nuclear bombs go off on the United States, and like it still has a lot of land mass. Don't lie to me, Chief. Like, not only would like the Yosemite volcano have gone off like 7 times already, but like it's just,
is it
it's
really
not
that prickly? The Yosemite volcano?
If you launched like fucking 100 nukes in it, yeah, I bet it would go off. Like,
who's going to die to the Yosemite volcano to launch 100 nukes in there?
I'm trying to remember that setting now. Wasn't there lore that like Timefall shrank the United States? Like it's smaller now or something? No. I think there's like some really weird shit going on in that story.
So they can explain the fact that the world is not real size. In the game?
They can explain the fact that you like travel between one into the other and it doesn't take you like 2 years.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
They don't need to explain that. We've been playing Elder Scrolls since forever. We know that video games are weird.
I just thought it was implied that off camera you covered a lot of ground between the zones.
But
I guess not.
Yeah, that's it.
The entire United States is those 3 maps.
The what's it called? So
there's very few people in the United States.
You can't like take those into account because they're too extreme. They can't happen. But like Walking Dead is like, it's semi plausible. Like imagine, like you could take COVID as an example.
Plausible.
You imagine that like once someone gets infected, they have to be quarantined, and like that's a lot of work to do, especially since people aren't like proactive about their own failure. Like no one's going to be going out of their way to be like, oh, I've got COVID, I want to go sit in an airtight room where no one's allowed to hang out or see with me, and I just get treated like some kind of outcast. Sounds like fun, guys. Like,
why don't they do that? They should do that. That sounds like a thing that people should do.
Look, we can't even get people to agree not to cut in line for things that are free. Like, I don't think there's hope in this. I don't think the species has no hope. But the point is that in that kind of environment, I imagine it's very difficult for a society to function, because like, if you die in your sleep and you
die
just
for real,
you like wake up dead as a zombie, and you like, I don't know, like say you eat your partner that's laying next to you or whatever, and they turn into a zombie, and now you got 2 zombies. Like, someone's got to notice that. Like how many people potentially die before it's noticed that there are zombies hanging out in your neighborhood, kind of deal. Like how long, if there was if that could happen here, how long would it take before I noticed that there were zombies in my neighborhood? Like would I have to wait until I went to,
but literally,
yeah, would I need to wait until like I went to my car, and then I'd be like, oh, that's a lot of people hanging around my front door, maybe I should see what they want?
Outstretched.
Or do I, or is it like a subtle thing, like I'll hear about it on the news and be like, oh man, that's crazy, I can't believe someone turned into a zombie, Like what would the impact be of that? Because it seems like you could never make a society that's even remotely as efficient as our own currently. Like I don't know how.
Well, it depends on what it has to be efficient at doing.
Like everyone's got to work from home first of all. Like there's no way you guys are like hanging out with each other. What if you have a heart attack? Are there police at every corner ready to like take out zombies in the event somebody topples over?
No police. If there's if police
what are you
kills
gonna
more
do?
people,
Dude, if a zombie
just
imagine you're buying a cup of noodles at your fucking convenience store and the guy behind the cash register falls over having a heart attack. He dies. He wakes up into a zombie. What do you just have guns on you all the time? No, you're gonna be like, well, fuck. Now I got a zombie.
You could have like an alarm system in your heart or something to be like, this person has died. Please evacuate the premises.
You get like some kind of weird dystopian society.
Everybody
where
has a chip in their brain that explodes if their heart stops.
Yeah, there you go. That
could
works.
be a thing.
That's intense.
It'd be a bummer for people with heart palpitations, but you know.
No. I would say you would obviously need to set like a limit here.
Good
like
old heart explode bummer.
Well, because like how long does it take between dying and zombification? It's like a few minutes, right? Like you don't just wake up. You don't just like die and it's like, hey guys. It's like, oh shit, that was quick.
Okay, so there's some leeway then.
It's whatever amount of time makes the scene better.
Okay, so that's perfect. So so you could set
remove all cameras.
Just remove it. Just set it so that way if the person dies,
the real enemy is the audience.
I would say like dramatic tension's like at minimum a minute 30. Like it's not going to go on longer than that. So
how long did the CPR
scene
scene happen with Charlie and Lost? That's how long the dramatic tension is.
Like it can't be shorter than that. It's not like you're going to have like a 30-second dramatic scene. That's really boring. You want to build tension. So like a minute 30 is what you'd set the bomb to go off in, and then that's fine. They would be like they'd be dead obviously, and then boom, their brain goes up. That's not great. It's not a great solution because like now you got to hire someone to come clean up the fucking mess.
Bad time.
But
you can't do that also though, because like if you die sitting or laying next to somebody else, you get collateral damage and it's a pain. It's just,
I mean, you're gonna die either way.
Death do us part.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
you signed your contract. You know what you signed up for.
Till death blow us apart. Or
is that part of a marriage certificate? Is that like part of the rules? Like
in Zombie World?
No.
Like just in real life,
it's definitely not part of the rules. You can get a divorce, Andrew.
Can someone argue that as being?
I'm sure people
like,
tried for a version of that at some point, where like when the man dies, the woman is buried with him like a pharaoh, like his cat.
Obviously the idea is that like when one of us dies, then the contract is null. It's not like you're stuck with the person after they die.
No, literally.
I meant like could you argue like that? Could you argue that person's dead to you and thus the marriage is nullified?
No, because the dead to you is like it's arguing
divorces.
Till death do us part. You are dead to me. So
personal
death
reality.
Has done us part. But I like those. I like those situations, or I like those thinking about those scenarios of like the kind of world like you can never go back to society again because death is too impactful to society in a way that it doesn't now. Like people can die and it doesn't matter, but like if people die in the Walking Dead world, it matters. People die in the Death Stranding world, it matters. It was like this weird sense of community involved with it, where like you really need to know all the people and like where they are, and if you don't see like Grandma Jones come out of her house in like 8 hours, you need to like go and fucking check on Grandma Jones. Like it's those kind of things.
It is a really nice element of the story. This element that everyone matters and everyone contributes, but it's also like there's not this obsession over whether or not people like are valuable as individuals and so on.
That's a whole kind of political conversation I don't want to think about with zombies, but I think but I do like I like the community-ness. I like I do think everyone matters in that sense, because everyone basically is holding a gun to each other's head, where it's like, if I go out, I can take you with me, and it's like, oh shit, like it's very I don't know. I don't know what to call that. How do you describe that kind of community? Like
I think that's.
a
I mean,
community at gunpoint?
if you interpret it that way, I think it's called mutually assured destruction. But I don't think that's
Perfect. There you go.
I don't think that's the point of that storytelling.
I think it's a beautiful story. I don't know. I also just like I watched Don't Look Up the other day.
I was gonna say 'cause, before I was gonna say that I watched Don't Look Up as well.
Oh wow, I'm behind.
Go right ahead. Oh, you are?
No,
Okay.
I mean, it's just there's something about it. I don't know. It's just like when I was thinking about it, it just was like thinking about that movie. It's more of like what is, yeah, it's like, what is I guess everything's a spoiler. Anyways, there are movies like that where there is fundamental changes to society and the way that death works in a society. I always think those are fun. I try to find stories like that, but they're often not really interesting. Like the plot is almost rarely interesting. But I think that's me because I don't care much about human drama. So it tends to be like those kind of stories tend to be focused a lot on the human drama. And I'm more just interested in the world. It's just like a lot of times and most stories I'm more enamored or encapsulated by the world than I am in the people in the world. Because like the people are in the world are kind of just like whatever. Like they're not as interesting. They're there to usually serve some kind of purpose to like either tell me something or to be just like an emotion creator. But I really want to know about how a world works that you've created. Like you look at a city and like, how does the city run? How do what is its values? What is its day to day? What is its economy? How does it make its money? How does it lose its money? Like all those things are interesting to me. And then when you have people where it's like, let me tell you about my philosophy. No, I don't care. It's not important. It's like I don't. Stop.
Tell me about
that.
your sewage system and how
exactly. Yeah. How did you guys solve this kind of problem? Did you solve this problem? Do you know this is a problem? Oh God, you don't know this is a problem yet? Oh boy. Like you watch a medieval movie and you're like, oh no, you guys don't have any knowledge of problems, do you? You're just all living in some kind of funny utopia where no one's smart enough to know there's problems. This is great.
Boy, have I got news about sewage.
Yeah.
Ooh, just you wait.
I don't know. It's fun. I like.
It's like here's the bad that happens when you get a bunch of people together and they have to live in one space.
They poop a lot.
They all poop in the same water you drink from.
They
for
won't
some reason.
stop for some reason.
They just never do. Sometimes they pee, but usually poop.
That's like what is it? Dumb fact of
sometimes
the British
they
Parliament?
pee, but usually I think they do. I think most people pee more. Do you have news for me?
Hey, I'm not an urbanist, okay? I don't understand.
You're not an urbanist.
People tend to starve more than they are dehydrated. So most people will pee more than they eat.
I think people are dehydrated way more.
No.
Yes. Like a reoccurring problem with people that have no excuse. They're dehydrated anyway all the time because you don't drink enough. Also, it happens way faster.
Yeah, like my glass is empty now, so I'm dehydrating.
It can take like a month to starve to death.
Oh yeah, that's one of my absolute pet peeves. Is people be like,
"Oh, we're stuck
every
in
day.
Here.
We're gonna starve to death," and I'm like, "No, you're not."
No, there's several other problems that come first.
Yes. One of them is getting bored. Even if you have water, it's really bad being stuck in a place that is closed.
No, it's not.
It is.
Dude, those people they can't do anything. They're stuck with you.
Andrew's here like, what have you guys been having a bad year or something?
You guys should. You know what you should do? The moment, like if you're stuck in an elevator, if right now you're listening to this and you're stuck in an elevator, here's my pro tip. Start dancing really obnoxiously, like tap dancing level. Because there is nothing that brings an entire community together than hate. And if they all hate you, then they won't be busy panicking. And you could be a savior once the fire department comes and throws a cool axe into your elevator door and pries it open. So I'm telling you,
I don't know where this is going.
Pro tip: if you want to survive being trapped in a closed place with people, you need to make them all band together to hate you and not panic and freak out, because otherwise they'll waste all your oxygen.
Very Andrew in a nutshell. I don't know where this is going.
So you mean that people who hate something panic less?
Yeah, because they're, instead of being scared and hyperventilating and freaking out about their situation, they're busy being annoyed that you exist. They're like, okay, look, I want to be scared that I'm stuck in an elevator, that I might potentially die, but could you fucking stop tap dancing? No one's here for that. We're all stuck here with you. And like suddenly the fear's gone. Now it's just anger. And you can stop anger, you just stop tap dancing. And then when people start panicking, you start tap dancing.
You can control the rhythm of the room.
Exactly.
Literally.
Exactly. Now
I don't think you put this theory to the test, Andrew. I think you're talking out of your
that would involve
your posterior.
Why would he do that?
The only time I've ever been trapped in an elevator, it was because I brought a mattress into the elevator. And so I was already set. I didn't need anything else.
So okay, so let me get this straight. You brought
additional
a mattress
questions
into an elevator. I assume not a freight elevator, otherwise it probably wouldn't get stuck.
No, it was a commercial elevator, like a standard user elevator.
Okay, yeah, you got yourself stuck.
User elevator.
You got yourself stuck, and then you started tap dancing as a means of fixing the situation.
I was already alone in the elevator.
Yeah, he'd already won. He could have just he could have just lived the rest of his life in that elevator.
Yeah, it would have been.
He almost did.
Some say I'm still living there to this day. No, I'm saying that if you're I have been trapped in elevators with people and alone, and obviously alone is the best possible choice because it's just you can't you're not going to ruin it for yourself.
It's the dream.
And yeah.
But
with other people,
if you've had a lot of coffee, you can ruin it for yourself. All right.
How?
Anxiety is a real thing. That's what I was gonna say about Don't Look Up. I did not choose the right time to watch it. Turns out,
the thing.
a liter and a half of energy drinks in that day makes you not want to sleep and also panic attack.
Oh, it's a strong reaction.
Yeah, that doesn't seem good.
Make sure you don't take too much coffee, Keith, when you watch Don't Look Up.
Is it actually good? I've heard basically nothing about it. I just saw one ad for it, and by an ad I mean
it's all made. It's all made. I didn't like the message, but for specific reasons that need to be spoiled. If I
womp womp.
Yeah, I didn't particularly like it myself for a couple of reasons. I thought they did a pretty bad job of conveying the message as well.
But it's well made. I thought it was definitely a well made movie.
It looks good.
It's very obvious that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it looks good. It's like there's a lot of good shots and a lot of good cinematic moments or whatever.
Cinematography is really good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it's not the story's bad, the message is bad, the
sounds like a resounding recommendation.
Yeah, like the vehicle they put it all in is bad. The actors are bad.
This sounds completely worth stopping my JoJo watch for.
I don't know. I think Leonardo DiCaprio looks bad. I think he's a bad looking dude. And I think
that worked in the favor of the movie, honestly.
I also don't think he's a good actor. Like, I don't personally like him as an actor. He just, I think they put him in a lot of emotional stuff because of like Titanic or something. But like, I don't think he's very good.
They like to put him in things where he yells.
Yeah, he's a very yelly guy, and he's
the guy who yells.
He's fine and all, I guess, at yelling. He can yell like anybody else, but it's just
I don't know. Nobody else, you mean?
No, he can yell like anybody else. It's pretty much standard Flair yelling. It's not like he's doing something
completely mundane yelling. Honestly,
mundane. Yeah, it's like I yell for a living,
yelling,
and I
yell for a living.
I know what good yelling's like.
I know what a good yell is. Yeah, you got Leonardo DiCaprio's got nothing on me.
And I think there's
that's not how you talk. I don't know why I said it like that.
Yar, it's me, the Andrew Pirate.
It's exactly how I talk.
Yo ho diddly dee.
I think it's still worth watching just because I think it's funny because it feels like a movie that is a perfect encapsulation of what it must feel like to read Twitter for the first time, where like you go through this a very quick range of emotions, while what you feel like you're watching is very, very slow reactions to critical problems. And like they just don't stop, and you're like, oh god, it keeps getting worse the longer I watch. But for some reason, no one will do anything about it. And you're like, yeah, that's Twitter, guys. Like, welcome.
That's where the movie I think
Willkommen.
worked best for me, was precisely that feeling, and how it conveys that. Like, obviously it's not a good feeling, but
it's Majora's Mask.
Sort of, kind of. So like, yes and no. It obviously it's Majora's Mask in the sense that the general plot is, yeah, that giant fucking smiling moon hurling towards us at 5,000 miles a second and definitely going to impact us is
If
not
we
a
acknowledge the
problem.
moon, we might make less money. It's going to get in the way of my money.
Yeah, basically, that's, you just summed up the whole movie in a sentence. Yeah, wow, congratulations.
Yeah,
Keith. Have
I
you
know.
seen it
I've been
before?
living in that world my entire life.
yeah, it is.
So that's,
Climate change under capitalism. Yeah, it's
coronavirus.
It's a fun ride, isn't it? Let's revel in that a bit.
Yeah. So again, that's the problem, is that the message, or the message is boring, because it is a message that isn't. It doesn't make you think. It doesn't make you go like, oh yeah. It's just like, okay, and what? Like, and what about it? Like, yeah, you're right. Like, we are fucked. And what about it? Do you want to contribute to that? Do you want to say anything? Are you gonna like
just more anguish screaming into the void because
that's
the listening still isn't happening in it, and won't.
Yeah, it just feels like someone yelling like, I can't believe you're doing this, just do something. It's like, and is there something you'd like to contribute to the conversation, or do you want to like be one of the other hundreds of fucking people yelling the same thing? Because we like get it, we've heard it. It's fun that you keep saying it, like it, it's like a meme at this point. Yeah, save the environment. Oh, cool. Like,
I agree with you on that assessment, but however, I am the kind of person that really liked 2012, the movie. You like destruction movies. You like the idea of. Yeah, well, the destruction bit went by pretty fast. It wasn't the major thing, but I liked the. I forget his name. What's the name of the main actor in 2012?
I've never seen it.
I don't remember.
I do not watch Roland Emmerich movies.
It's he makes a bunch of movies. He's the.
He talks like this. And he's talking like this a little bit. I don't.
What the fuck?
What?
I forget his name. But he has a scene where he
Nicolas Cage? Is that Nicolas Cage?
That's the one. Yeah,
is that a Nicolas Cage impression?
And no,
that is a Nicolas Cage impression.
Like, I got it.
You got it.
I don't know who the fuck's in 2012.
Nicolas Cage is not in 2012.
But he did a Nicolas Cage impression, right?
Yeah. What is the name of the movie then? Is it not?
I don't know.
2012?
Are you not talking about? You may
there's
not
a
be
lot of
talking about
movies
2012.
just like 2012.
Yeah, it's a disaster movie. It's
That's Roland Emmerich's entire career is that movie over and over again.
List of filmography. That's the one. Nicolas Cage filmography. And yeah, that's the movie. That's the actor. But
I was so completely unprepared for that voice. But then a moment later, I'm like, yeah, it's Nicolas Cage. Like, I get it. I guess. Like, I don't know how many impressions I could get of actors, but I get that one.
You've won me over. That does sound like him.
I don't think it's 2012. It's a movie where the world is gonna end, and I think it does. I don't remember, but
National
basically, I have no idea. I don't think so. He drives a limousine against an earthquake, and it's like a race against the earthquake, and it's badass as hell. And then there's planes falling from the sky, and I like that sort of movie. That's good. I like that sort of action. I so about
don't care every time.
So yeah, that's why I'm saying.
Are you talking about Left Behind?
Could be Left Behind.
Nope, it's not Left Behind.
I don't think that's even an apocalypse movie.
I don't even remember what the premise of the movie is. I think 2012 is like floods.
Isn't Knowing the one where you can see the future?
Yeah, MIT links mysterious list of numbers.
I think it might be that. Yeah,
I think I've seen that one.
To prevent the ultimate catastrophe. Oh, I mean, it has. I think it has him in a car with a girl.
I think that's just the one where you
Yeah,
can see the
it's some-
future, and so like people
think
keep
so.
coming to get him or to kill him and stuff, but he keeps like, but I'm JoJoing it, and I have a plan for this contingent now because I saw that coming. And
It's definitely it, because if you look at the poster of the movie, it's the Earth burning up, and that's the end of the movie. By the way,
Uh-oh.
spoiler.
I must be thinking of another movie where he knows the future.
Yeah, it's snowing. It's snow. I don't know why I thought 2012. 2012 is the one where they
'Cause-
make a big arc, isn't it?
I think the 2012 is that's Noah's Ark. I think 2012 is the one where the crust of the Earth under New York like comes up, like it physically disassembles, like in that fucking Call of Duty game where they drop the iron rod from space.
Little known story, but the Bible.
The
The
Bible.
Bible. No, that was definitely
Dude,
what they
that
definitely
Noah
have
movie's
one.
hardcore.
They definitely made
Like,
a
holy
movie
shit.
about major floods, and they built a boat.
There's
And
wait,
it's
what
like
do you mean
all-
Noah movie?
Yeah, Noah.
A movie about Noah?
Yeah, there's a movie about Noah.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
It has Emma Watson in
There's
it.
probably a lot of them.
I don't think you should make movies about a guy who like has sex with his own children.
It's,
kinda
it's
weird.
not a great time.
A
It's-
900-year-old guy.
I mean, it's you know, the context that makes sense is that it's a Danny Aronofsky movie. The guy did
Ah.
Requiem for a Dream, so it's a very miserable
Gotcha.
movie.
Cool.
I mean,
That was the
it's
movie where
Noah.
somebody got really angry at me because we played Samurai Warriors 4, and I was like, God's a fucking dick in that movie, and people are like, how dare you talk trash about my religion? Blah, blah, blah. And like that's like, and there was like a big long rant, angry video comment in our comment section back on Sad Games about it. Because I dared say that God might be a dick in a story where he kills the world.
Excuse me.
Maybe he doesn't come off as great in that kind of story.
Yeah, it turns
God
out
gave
in
us.
God
gave us
reading
freedom
the
of
book
speech.
Didn't make it better.
And,
God gave us. Did he
and-
now?
And if
And
if
the
God
Second
gave us
Amendment?
that
He's a
freedom
much
of
more
speech-
sympathetic character in the book. You got to read that one.
God gave us the Second Amendment and the flag.
the flag.
I don't know
he
where
just,
Andrew.
he just like shot a flag out of the sky and it
Gave
fell
us
onto
the
America,
Second
and that's it.
Amendment.
I don't know where Andrew was going. I was just trying to complete the train of thought.
He gave us the Second Amendment.
Thank
He
God.
must have.
Jesus
I
Christ.
mean, if you criticize a movie and people are like, "How dare you criticize my religion?" Jump of logic.
You know, like
Religion
God,
is
that's
America.
against my Second Amendment rights.
that I there's some 4D chess going on here. I needed to decode this. But no, my sleep
know
actually,
that.
talking about anxiety and stuff like that, my sleep I think has been like affected directly by the Lindsay Ellis news. Of just like, oh,
What?
fuck.
Why?
Oh,
Just the scale of it, just like the fucked up, and it's the point where somebody can be on this kind of platform and related things for so long to the point where they
Mhm.
basically influence like an entire genre of video, like the video essay format. Like if anyone who makes them, like if they weren't influenced by Lindsay Ellis, they're influenced by somebody that was influenced by Lindsay Ellis. Like it's
Yeah.
a kind of a big deal person in that field. To have somebody bow out of that and then also basically regret ever taking part in it, it feels like is like, oh fuck. And like that's like a whole new, it like adds like a whole new fear where it's like there's already the weird background anxiety of being in this, or you know, any field really, where you're just like, what if this whole thing just comes crumbling down one day and it's just like, there goes that job.
Yeah.
But the idea that you could get to the end of that and then regret the years where you were doing what you loved at all, like that you regret ever doing that, is like, that's like dark. And have it be specifically that the people that were like the audience basically turning on you, and like the audience themselves being essentially why you regret ever making content for them in the first place, is just like this whole thing where it's like it's like the idea of becoming afraid of the very people that you're making videos for and so on. It's just like, what a distressing, weird hell space. And I've been working on
Twitter.
I'm working on a video
Sorry.
because I wanted to do it because it's my 10-year thing. So I wanted to do, I was like, a video essay about 10 years on YouTube ? Was like in my like list of like I have a list of games I want to cover in like this event year or whatever, which I'm slacking on a bit because it's really hard to logistically do that. But it was like, oh yeah, let's play Myst VR and the Demon Souls remake, and like finally go back and do another playthrough of Disco Elysium and The Witness and stuff like that. The Witness randomizer. But like one of the ideas was to do a 10-year video essay about like just sort of my experience and so on. And I've been kind of like almost like therapeutically writing about that sometimes instead of sleeping in response to the Lindsay Ellis stuff. So and it's like that script was already trending negative, and it's definitely gotten worse. Like thousands of words deep at this point. Like it already was trending negative before, but now it's like significantly more that way, because the more I try to write about being a YouTuber, the more I feel this like pressure and responsibility to talk about all of the awful things, specifically because of like we're at a stage where being a YouTuber or an influencer or whatever, variations of the same thing and so on, TikTok and shit, even if those fields I understand less, but they're related. It's like the most popular job for someone like coming out of school. They're like, that's what they say above anything else, is that they want to be me, basically, or me but more successful, basically. And I've spent 10 years not only experiencing the various pitfalls, expected and unexpected, but also just learning about all the various stages of fucked up things like reactionary harassment groups and anti-fans and parasocial relationships and all the bizarre different fucked up things that come from this whole thing, besides just the normal boring stuff that YouTubers are like allowed to complain about, like the algorithm, and also like the various stages of how like you as a content creator, despite dealing with all these things, are basically not allowed to complain about any of it, because like it's like the video game developer situation where it's like, this is the dream job. If you don't want it, 1 billion people are waiting to replace you, and like, how dare you show anything besides gratitude for every element of this every day, kind of stuff. And then the endless scrutiny of countless people and so on and so forth. And like at the end of the day, like I have to have like a big intro section where I talk about like all the upsides and why I do what I do, because there is a lot of reasons why I do it. And I don't want to lose this job, and I do specifically like it way more than any other job I've ever had. But I can't help but think like there's so many people that want to do this, and there's such a low barrier to entry to try. And like Susan isn't gonna warn you. It's like Susan doesn't give a shit. Like YouTube, the uploader, it doesn't like, there's no like primer, there's no like video that comes up like here's the countless unexpected pitfalls that come from making a career on YouTube and all the things that can happen to you, and like the people that have literally died as a result of these processes and so on. It's like, no, it's like, hey, upload your video, here we go, and they just like, they enable it. Like these platforms that depend entirely on content creators to exist in no way prepare or train or even counsel their content creators about the many like horrible things that can happen to them on this platform and so on. And so you just kind of like stumble into it. And that's one of the weird things about going after someone like Lindsay in its own way, is just the idea of like she didn't I think every frame of painting was first, maybe. But like it's not like she specifically created the video essay completely from scratch and with no other wider cultural context or anything. But like she definitely was making them before I even knew that there was a thing to call them yet. Like I remember watching the Rent video essay and thinking like, oh, this is like, I was like, you would think of it as a review, but like this is something different. It's like important, and it's like, this is something. I need more of this. Like long before there was like long before there even was like an H-Bomber guy or ContraPoints or any of the many other like channels that you would even name in that context. I was watching stuff like the Rent video and being like, hang on a minute, what is this? This is something different and all that. But like the level of scrutiny, and then like the culmination of all of the different like the way that people like collect your sins and so on over the course of like your long career, and then and all of those sins are evergreen forever, as if they just happened, and you still agree with them and haven't apologized for them a dozen times and regret them and so on. It's like, it's just such a weird, gross way to treat people. And much like the part where you're not allowed to complain about your job, it's like this thing where it's like, you're not really allowed to be a person, like, despite the whole like relatability and haha, and I love this person, I'm so attached to them and I feel like I know them and so on. Like, the way that scrutiny works for content creators is they're essentially not allowed to ever actually be a human being that makes any mistakes or choices and is trying to figure out even how to do what they do and so on, to the point where it's like the number of bizarre sins I saw trotted out against her over this time was just like, it's kind of just like fascinating. Like, there was like people were still mad about her for being like I'm not like the other girls, and it's like, I'm sorry, you're mad at her for nostalgia chick, the thing that happened over a decade ago and hasn't been happening since I was in college. Like, people, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, people change and grow so much. Like, I've been on here for 10 years and I've said all sorts of stupid shit in old videos and so on. And like, I probably made jokes about people identifying as things before I even knew really what a trans person was at all. In fact, I probably basically thought the words that we're talking about, like confusing otherkin people that are like, I'm not a furry, I'm actually a wolf, kind of people that are just like, I don't know how to process this level of Tumblr, and I don't know how to discuss this, like that kind of like level. Like, I'm sure someone probably doesn't identify as a TAC helicopter. Well, I guess that person unironically said that shit that they said, I guess. And like, you just go through these like you learn and grow and change all the time. I remember that I specifically, Andrew knows that when I started YouTube, I wanted to make a political channel as a 21-year-old in college. And I was like spurned on by all the protest groups that were on my college campus all the time that were trying to like stop the liberals from being liberal. Basically like, this place is corrupting our children. And it's like, if anyone's pushing me left, it's your weird fucking anti-abortion posters where you show gore to students when they're just trying to walk to the next class and stuff like that.
They did that even back then?
Oh yeah, no, it was so much. there was conservative protesters on my college campus just all the time, to the point where you were almost thankful for the people that just sit at a fucking card table and hope that you'll ask them about religion, because at least they're just sitting there. But it was so much, and it's like, it was just like I felt the need to like want to talk about that stuff. Then we got together with some friends and we just filmed a shitty podcast that had nothing to do with any of that stuff, and then it turned into a shitty vlog channel that immediately turned into that immediately spun off, because it was a spin-off into a let's play channel, and that's how this whole mess gets here. And like, I don't fucking know who we are or what things are. Like, and I've said before, like, the stuff Andrew says now is like fascinatingly at odds with like old school libertarian Andrew, that like don't you let anybody else ever, no one's entitled to my tax dollars, like kind of shit. And it's like, people just grow and change and so on. And it's just this weird approach to online figures where you like chronicle their sins forever and use them against them is just like weird, gross shit. And it's like, I've been in conversations with people in this stuff, because like, you might remember that back in the day, like, there was a thing where ContraPoints featured Buck Angel in a video as a voice actor, and that was a whole controversy in its own right. And during that time, people were harassing everybody that knew ContraPoints, even if they had nothing to do with the video in any direct way, which is its own other separate thing of like, it seems a lot like you guys are trying to harass people until they socially isolate a trans person, which seems like an actively damaging thing to do to anybody, especially somebody that's not like, killing people or whatever the fuck. It's like such a disproportionate, gross way. It's not criticism as much as people try to claim it is. But like, in that way, like, I had just watched Lindsay Ellis's I almost said TED Talk, her XOXO talk, I think. Like, a few different people have given talks at that. I've seen like Hank Green, H Bomber Guy, and Lindsay all do talks there, I think. Well, I've seen them I've seen the videos. I haven't gone to XO. And she talks about how for the last year she's been actively harassed by these alt-right goons that like actively try to like dox her and bring all these things after her and so on, and that her life's just been this hell of trying to stamp down this endless pursuit of her. And so when this thing happens with ContraPoints where everyone's going after her for a thing that she didn't even do or be involved in, her sin is that she knew ContraPoints and was friends with them, and that it's a crime now. There was somebody like everyone's going after her, and I saw that there was one person that stood out to me because they were trying to shout her down and specifically like force a response out of her, and was like everybody keep posting it, don't stop until something happens, basically. And I'm like, I made the mistake of responding, and I'm like, this is harassment. And I got shouted down, like, be a better ally and shut the fuck up and listen and all these other things. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, listen to this like talk she just did before this, so it's not a response to this. Yeah. So you can't like discredit it based on that. And it's like, listen to the shit she's been going through and how you're basically just recreating the exact behaviors that have been making her life hell for the last year. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you're doing harm instead of in any way fighting for anybody. And there's a whole conversation here about how Twitter's disgusting and gross, and it actively encourages this behavior algorithmically and so on as a platform. But it's like, but like every conversation I've ever had on Twitter, zero progress is made. I just leave angry, and somebody, and I probably end up on another block list where a bunch of people automatically are blocking me because I'm like, one conversation identifies me as a chud that's against the group or whatever, because that's how that stuff often works. And it's like, I was just trying to advocate for not harassing somebody, like, and it's like it's just like waves of this stuff. And like and like the funny thing is like this is like forgotten now. Like that was a thing that was before the Rhea thing, where what was essentially like, hey, this is a bad look or not a well-phrased thing or not the best argument, or the way you said it isn't, I'm not receiving it well, or whatever, about comparing a Disney movie to Avatar as like, but that's Asian culture, how dare you, and so on. And like there's a point to be made about how something she said wasn't right, but like it becomes this thing where it's like there's just massive mobs of people going after her for entire days, and then dancing on her grave basically when she deletes her Twitter, and then shouting creepy things like Jenny Nicholson next. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you after Jenny Nicholson now? How did we get there? It's like, just like the ContraPoints thing leaked onto Lindsay Ellis, the Lindsay Ellis thing leaks onto Jenny Nicholson. And it's just like, at some point you're just harassing women, and you're just like working down a list online. Yeah,
you're going after you're going after dissenters, people who are spreading the opinion you don't want. And I mean that, unfortunately, that's just social media. Social media is about like trying to kill your opponent, either like realistically or just their account. And it's like kind of, it's
because it's the same thing.
And what happened is a couple weeks ago, but it's recent for this podcast because we haven't done it since. Lindsay Ellis put out a Patreon post saying like, hey, I'm this is it, I'm quitting. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I can't do this job. Like I can't function anymore, and it's been the worst year of my life. And even then, people are like, they had to private the post and make it only patrons only, but like people are dancing on and like still like trying to dunk on her there, being like, oh, all of her employees found out via Patreon post that they're fired. And it's like, no, if you actually cared about the employees, you would look at their Twitter accounts for 1 second and see them all like cheering her on and supporting her decision, and also that they clearly knew about it in advance, because of course they talked about this probably for months before it was announced. You fucking sociopaths. And also,
she was specifically saying how she wasn't firing them, and she was leaving the Patreon page up to support her employees.
And I haven't seen the post because it's private now, but or specifically, I have a copy of it. I never got around to reading it. Like I didn't want to like. Mm-hmm. I kind of don't want to. I'll have to while I'm writing this, but it's just like, it's just not a fun thing to want to read ever. Like it's like knowing the context already, it's just like miserable. But
Yeah,
it's just
it's
like
not-
this whole
it's not
thing
a
where it's
fun
like,
read
what
at
the
all.
fuck? Like what do
But
you
she
want? You
specifically
won,
mentions-
she's gone, and it's still like, now here's our new crime. Our new crime is how dare you fire your people, and it's like, it's just
Well,
I'm so tired.
There's something.
And to the end, while it's still viral, it's constantly this talk about how like she just can't just accept criticism, and this is actually about this, and I'm like, you know what these words are you're saying, right? This is Gamergate. This is actually about ethics and journalism. Like, it's literally the exact same patterns and behaviors and the same shitty scapegoat argument that excuses the waves and waves of harassment, that where the harassment was the point. And true to form, it was also infiltrated by Nazis, just like Gamergate. Like, it was once again a wave of outrage that was infiltrated by shitty groups on the right that are specifically trying to cause mayhem and making it worse. And it's just like, this is
There's
stuff someone,
exhausting-
like, at bare minimum, this is just all shit someone should know about before they make a YouTube channel. Like, all
Sounds
these
really
layers
exhausting
of
to be a-
things.
It's exhausting to be a Nazi. You have to like change what you're into every week so you can be a part of a new group.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
do they
pretend
assimilate
to.
in some way? Yeah, like do they have to like do you have to do like a boot camp real quick where they read up on like what video games are and like,
Yeah,
oh
it's
shit,
called
all right.
4chan.
Yeah,
or
I
8chan
love
or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean that was
Unreal
the, I mean back
Engine.
in all the way back in high school, like that was the premise of 4chan, was just being so fucking irony poisons and convincing yourself that you don't actually believe in anything and so on, like being Schrodinger's douchebag and talking in dog whistles and so on. Like that'll happen when I was like 16. Like I was surrounded by people that were that type of person, and they got worse. I know at least
That's
some of
been
them
the
just
case.
got worse over the years.
There's been people like that since forever. Like,
Yeah.
in the 80s.
But there's specific breeding grounds that actively encourage it, and they
Oh,
also
yeah, for sure.
also encourage behaviors that will socially isolate you by driving people out of your life that aren't completely fucking broken.
The thing is that, like, there's a point to be made for there's two things at work here that are hard to reconcile, and just to bring it back to why you started talking about this, about Lindsay Ellis and about your 10 years on YouTube and our presence in social media, or YouTube as social media. There's two things that are hard to reconcile, which is the individual correctedness in a way, or rather, like somebody says a shitty thing, and if you're their close friend, you might let it go, or you might talk to them in a private, or maybe the group of people that you're with, and you
I don't. These
correct
online
them.
figures that I know each other call each other out publicly on Twitter whenever one of them does something wrong. It's like, what the fuck is
but
your expectation, bro? What do you think people are? It's like,
the thing is, I think, like, let me just make this juxtaposition, because YouTube works in a really messed up way, or not just YouTube, but modern day celebrities in social media specifically, because if you don't know the person, like for example, when I went to New York last month, and I was in the COVID testing thing, and I was just having a chat with this nice Czechoslovakian gentleman, talking about the situation and how Omicron and all that, and he just drops the line in the middle of a perfectly reasonable conversation where he's going over how expensive it is and whatnot. He just says, "I know this is fake," and just continues talking about the rest of the stuff. And my reaction was just to be like, yeah. I didn't harp on the point. I didn't correct him. I just sort of obviously did not go against what he was saying, and just moved on and just, okay, have a nice trip, bye, after a little while. And that's a non-confrontational reaction that a lot of people have towards strangers. And it's kind of the same thing that you have when that, like, maybe you're a big fan of Braveheart, the movie or whatever, but then you find out that Mel Gibson is an awful person, just absolute shit. And you're like, oh, shit. I still like Braveheart, though. And maybe it gets a little bit more difficult to enjoy Braveheart next time you watch it or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. But they're strangers. Like, people making online stuff and people on the television set or in the movies, they're just strangers. The fact that we're so close, though, on YouTube, that we're so close to our audiences, means that reality, that we're strangers, that reality gets muddled, and it's so much more difficult for
there's like a
for people to see
bizarrely
as
intense,
strangers.
like betrayed emotional
Mhm.
reaction, essentially.
Yeah.
It's also related to like there's also like that betrayal element that like the intensity only happens with people that are somewhere vaguely on your side. Like that level of vitriol.
Oh yeah, that makes it
like
worse.
People
Yeah.
like people like can't maintain it when it's like against like somebody that's just completely far gone. Like the level of like people that essentially largely agree with Lindsay Ellis politically, for example, that
Mhm.
are spending more time yelling at her than Candace Owens, for example, is like it's like
Yeah.
there's a thing there. Like that's definitely an element, and sometimes people say it's the left eating themselves. I'm like, no, there's nothing left about it. It's just that's just how people do. Like that's definitely like the right does it too. There's just this bizarre, like, because there's the betrayal element, I guess you go even harder on somebody there. But it's like more and more I'm just like, people like you can't be on Twitter this long. Like it can't be around for this long and people still pretend to not understand how it works. Like at some point you got to take some basic responsibility in what Twitter is and how it works. So if you see somebody that you think is doing a questionable behavior and you actually wished that they didn't do that, and it's not like it's actually somebody, like when it's somebody that's, you know, like somewhat aligned with you and not somebody that's just like a fucking deranged grifter that's in a completely different planet than you, like Alex Jones or whatever, like fucking email them. like send them an email with your feedback about the specific thing that you think that they maybe should change, or something that you are worried about that you think about what they said or something, or DM them or whatever. Because quote tweeting is just like it's the worst thing you could possibly do with a platform, because one, no one's gonna really synthesize your 20 tweet long thread that's all this nuanced criticism about this really hyper specific point. Like if the hyper point is like, oh, this is there's latent racism in this really specific way, and there's undercurrent of the blah 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 and the 20 blah, 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 blah. It's like they're gonna just like skim it and be like, oh, the takeaway is this person's racist, and then the quote tweet is just a window that is go to this person and call them racist, and then it snowballs from there. It just becomes person is thing, yell at person, here's the nice convenient clickable spot to yell at the person, and now you got thousands of people involved in the conversation, which is not a conversation, and it doesn't accomplish anything, and it doesn't go anywhere. And also, the vindictive little shits will just like, they don't follow up on like what the outcome of the conversation is. They just hear especially like if it's well received or whatever, like any response that there is just drowned out and forgotten, because all they hear about is like the initial wave of thing and so on. Like we're really bad at internalizing any information or learning anything, because hearing an outrageous thing is like it's just like this brain fucking, I don't know, word
Plug.
It's a thing that just sticks so well into you. It's like it's like we're reliving the hot coffee McDonald's thing for the rest of our lives, where like the outrageous thing you hear is just the truth and you live with it forever and you don't question it. And it's like, oh, was it actually this big nuanced thing where the hot coffee thing was actually like a bunch of bullshit, and actually like somebody had suffered horrible burns, and there's actually like more to this discussion? It's like, nah, it just becomes whatever the worst version is that people make up. The thing that everyone makes fun of online and makes up about it, that's the real narrative, and that's all anyone remembers. And that's what happens to people just all the time. And it's not productive. It's actively counterproductive. And it's like, we need to become more sophisticated at some point post Gamergate at like just basic ideas of how to interact with people in these kinds of situations, because like you can just actively make it worse. And at some point you can't feign ignorance anymore. And like,
social media is designed in a way that is never going to allow that to become better, though, because it's so focused. It's the scalability of the individual relationships we have with each other. They don't work in the same way that either we deal with an audience or we work as an audience. They're not the same kind of thing. If you're on Facebook and you make a friend request of a famous person and they accept you or whatever, even something as similar as that has happened to me, for example. I'm friends with some famous guitar players, and I don't know why they accepted me, but I requested it and they said yes. Nothing happened. It's just like I'm not going to talk to them. They have other things to do. But that's me. There's people who do that and then go and send dick pics to women, or just harass them in the comments, and just there's all manner of bad things that happens in social media to complete strangers by complete strangers, because it's the same mechanisms that we can use for our close friends and our family, like applied to everyone. And then fandoms work like that in such a bizarre way. It's so bizarre because obviously it's not supposed to be like that. If you have a video that's seen by thousands and thousands of people, those thousands of people can't interact with you in the same way that they interact with, or that you interact with your friends, either close friends. And YouTube is kind of not as bad at that as everything else, like specifically Twitter and Facebook, because YouTube is like a comment section, and it's obviously.
And like for every public figure, there's like a fucking spectrum of like the person that like, huh? Oh, I was only like half listening in another tab, to like the person that's like, I have a fucking cork board that chronicles all of your behaviors and everything you've ever done, and I'm coming for you. It's like,
yeah, I'm definitely the dude in the other tab. I'm aware, but I'm not interested.
But the thing is, because those interactions are mimicked for famous people or for fandoms or whatever, they're mimicked from our personal relationships with close friends or family members, because that's how that is. Anytime you call somebody out, you get it's the clout that people talk about. It's like if you just go say,
no, it's literally just people it's they're just dunking on people to have the feeling of everybody agreeing with them and liking what they did, and they don't care about the consequence of what it actually does or whether or not it actually changes anybody's mind. And it's like
yeah.
And that's a real risky thing to do if you're accusing someone of something that actually is actually dire or sounds like it might be, and goes somewhere, because then that becomes the narrative. It's like when I remember like during the ContraPoints controversy, like somebody in my Discord just said that they said something along the lines of like, I heard that Lindsay Ellis is a transphobe, and I just challenged them on that because I'm like, okay, what? Where? How? Yeah. Why? Like, any context? Who would you hear that from? What's your source? Like, just anything. I wasn't like going after them hard or anything, but I'm like, I prompted them to be like, clarify. Why are you thinking that? Where's that coming from? Because that's a really weird thing to hear in that context. Like, what conversation led there? And it's because like people just shouting the things is often all it takes, to the point where I think I can literally see the fucking the Kiwi Farms type little shits that are in the groups shouting at people, because like they will just shout in the most basic terms, like this person is a racist, or this person is sexist, or this person's a transphobe or something, and they'll just keep shutting that down at everybody. And like what's a dark thing is that they'll have like, because it's like step one if you're trying to do this, is like you get an avatar that makes you seem like you'd be the authority on this kind of thing, like as a black man, like that kind of setup. And it's like that, like when that one Republican like senator or whatever like posted there like as a black woman or something, and they were like on their main account, so it was just them saying it, like that kind of setup. Like they have no substance to it, and they're not going anywhere with it. And it's like that, to some extent, like that's what I think the Jenny Nicholson posts are. It's like them just like trying to rile the group up, because if you see enough people all just shouting one thing or going in a particular direction, you just kind of believe it and go with it, and then you feel righteous, and you want to ride that feeling too. And so like I think those are literally like to go to Walking Dead, it's like the people that are literally like herding the zombies. Like they're like, oh, if we move over here, like, oh Jesus, it's the whisperers. Oh no, I had a breakthrough.
Write it down. Write it down, Keith.
It's the whisperers, because there's all the zombies, and the whisperers put on zombie masks and pretend to be part of the group, but they're actually herding the group where they want to go. That's the whole thing. I don't know, I'm sad. It's been a bit of a back and forth obsession cycle, going back and forth on that shit. And hopefully
Twitter's done its job,
can
then
finish this stupid script at some point and be done with that at least. I don't know. There's always the back and forth of like, how personal do I make this part? Nope, rewrite this part again. So by contrast, it's like, yay, writing about Walking Dead is fun.
well,
until you
On the
figure
plus
out.
side, one day it will all end.
Yep. Don't look up.
Always look forward. Don't look down. Don't look up. Look forward. If you can't look forward, then look into the eyes of the most closest person in front of you so deeply that you can see all the different variations of pigment in their eyes
But
to the point where they feel uncomfortable.
5 feet away.
But they have to be uncomfortable
Yeah.
with their eyes because you can't even see their lips move anymore. That's how close you need to be.
That's, the field of view is so narrow that's just like
Yes. Narrow it so deeply.
Yeah, I guess the takeaway is just be more critical of what you're doing and why you're doing it and when you do it. Are you just dunking on people for clout? Like, are you just seeking clicks at the costs of actual humans and so on? And also, like, if you find yourself reflexively being like, yeah, but the valid criticism, though, it's like, kind of like try to think about how much you are just being as susceptible to the Gamergate style wave as the people that you probably look down on for being in that wave. Because like that's what I saw here. I saw Gamergate happen again. Like that's what this was. It was a lot
I don't
fucking
know.
smaller, but it's the same tricks and the same pattern and the same.
I think there's just a
There's
there's
the
just a
same
type
thing
of
where
speech now.
a person that talks about the abuse they're facing is shouted over by people being like, you just can't take valid criticism. It's like we have seen this. It's been a decade and it's still going.
Yeah, it's just a type of. It just worked. They saw that kind of speech pattern works in getting what they want done. I just think the most important part of it all is there's like with everything, it's always a what about ism type deal. Like, all right, well, you know, if you're gonna call our people out, then we're gonna call your people out. If you're gonna harass our people, we're gonna harass your people. That type of shit. And even if it's not a like if you can't prove that one side is harassing and the other isn't, or vice versa, it's always a yeah, but you would if you could type deal. Regardless, this kind of shitty, weird mentality. It's the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the person that you are communicating about is if they are actively committing a crime. Like if someone is doing a crime, I think it is in your best interest to be vocal about that crime being committed, because don't let people get away with crimes. But if someone's just doing drama on the internet, shut up and watch it. Brew a cup of tea, eat some popcorn, sit back, read their little thing about why they're leaving, and just move on with your life. Have fun. Good job. That's it. It's not like you watch them anyways. It's not like you were going to watch them anyways. Seeing you got what you wanted, which is you wanted to see someone fail or whatever. You did it. Now move on. You don't need to like kick them. You don't need to kicking doesn't make you cool. Like sitting there kicking a dead horse isn't cool. It's not. I don't know. It just doesn't. It just feels like what all social media is like everyone wants to just jump on to a train and be a part of it and write it out and feel like they were, there. Like, oh, back in my day, kid, I was part of the brigade that took down Lindsay Ellis. And it's like, no, you weren't, Grandpa. You're some shitty guy throwing hot takes like on it, like, like all you said was like, yeah, fuck that person on a tweet.
It definitely feels like a rationalization at some point where it's like, oh, this is sad. This is a thing that someone should be sad about. This is like a thing that's like a bad thing was happening. But I don't want to process that. So I'm going to justify it as being a good thing, actually. Like, yeah. I did twist it around to a comfortable, cathartic thing where actually they're still wrong even now. And I have no guilt in any step of this entire process.
And I've been vocal about, or like at least on Discord, I said like my stance is always when there's a mob after you, you just, take your shoes off, get on the ground, bow as hard as you can, say I'm sorry, and move on with it, and just let people say bad things about you forever. It's just how this whole system is built. It's supposed to be like this. It's running as optimally as intended when people are harassing you constantly. The difference is that like it shouldn't be a platform size consistent amount of hate. Like you shouldn't have a trending tab of people to hate on you. That's not normal.
No, Twitter literally has a place that's like, click here to see the person that everyone's yelling at right now.
Yeah. That stuff
and
is
the
that stuff's
default
bad.
assumption
That's
is
like,
they're right.
yeah, that part's a little bad, and it's very normal.
Every social media platform
unless
is
they have
making the
died.
world
And
I think-
worse,
and I think
and
the
they're
problem
doing it
here
on
is-
purpose. They know how to stop
and-
it, and they're not going to.
It's
Yes,
either
and I-
somebody to hate
but-
on or they died.
And I want to be like important, or I want to make an important distinction here that just because that this is how social media runs and how it is that this is normal, this is how it's supposed to be, is not like an equation sign or equal sign to being acceptable or okay. It doesn't like just because that's the norm doesn't make it acceptable. That's just how it is. Just, it's like like wage theft is normal, but it's also not something that we agree with. Like we've agreed that it's not okay and is a crime, but
And
it still
kinda
happens.
that's kind of my goal
constantly.
with my platform,
Yeah.
like in working with the video and so on, is just to be like, not only to warn people trying to get into this, it's just about the breadth of all the things that they should know about already, but also like just like trying to change people's behavior in like my tiny corner of the internet, because that's literally all you can do. Because like, think about this shit, please. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Just watching
there's-
us not learn for a long time.
Well, there's no incentive to, like, it's not it's what is it's like when you watch how
Which is
you watch
true, but then you kind of have to give up on thinking of yourself as a good person.
well, what is it?
Yeah, if you're not,
you'll never
And I want
know
people,
if you
I
made
want
the
people
right.
to actually grapple with that discomfort of realizing, like,
Yeah,
am I not a good person? Like having to
I think
actually
the
like think
problem
about
is-
what they're doing.
I think the problem is that they, like people never really will know if they made the right choice, because oftentimes they'll never, like, it will never be obvious what they made the mistake of. Like like harassing Lindsay Ellis is not something the average Twitter person is going to feel any kind of like moral repercussions about.
Yeah, 'cause
tomorrow,
she's not a person.
next year, in 50 years. Yeah,
She
so
doesn't-
like you're
she
never
doesn't
gonna
get to be
think
human. That's
you're
how
never
this
gonna get to
works.
think about. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's that.
No, it literally
I don't think
is.
it's
She's
that
literally
weird.
her humanity is not considered in the process. That's how this works. That's why it's
Well,
like that.
So I don't know. This is, what is it? There's like, I was watching something and they did a really good point about, there was a trend between like the 90s and the 2000s where being famous became like changed its form. Like being famous wasn't about adoration, it was about envy. And so like it went from, oh wow, that person's famous because they did something, to, wow, that person's famous, fuck them, let's kill them. And it's like, oh, that's weird. I wonder like what was invented in the like the late 90s, early 2000s that possibly could have changed our viewpoint on celebrity status. But there's this like, most social media is akin to like a reality TV show. Almost all of it is fake. People are just incredibly crazy people on just an average base. And it's kind of all just not something you need to be taken as seriously as people do. Like it's not,
well,
but it's a place that's been taken seriously. Like I don't understand. I will never understand why social media, like why Twitter would ever be used by a government like worker. Like I don't understand why our senators make public announcements on Twitter, because that's not what Twitter is. Twitter isn't a place to do that stuff. Twitter is to look at pictures of really weird art and see people harassing somebody.
Really
like,
weird
that's
art.
it. That's the whole point. Like,
That's what we need.
it's-
What Twitter needs in order to finally break through as a better platform is just more porn. just
More porn.
just
Probably.
overflowing porn until it's it's unignorable, and then everyone either is there to look at porn or they're gone. Like it's just you can't have conversations anymore. It's just all porn now, and then that would make the world better, because Twitter would
Probably.
the Twitter we know would be dead, and that'd be
Perfect.
beautiful.
Nailed it.
Anyway,
It's
see you guys next week. Send your hate mail to the pits of hell.
Bits of hell.
Send all of your hate mail to @WhiteHouseGov on Twitter.
Whitehouse.gov.
No, not whitehouse.gov, because that might be considered a threat. Just do it to the
Maybe.
Twitter account. That's
Just do it to
fine.
the Twitter account.
The Twitter account is not real. That's
All
not
right.
a real person. So
See y'all next week, boys.
Good luck.
Bye.